Okay, good evening, everyone. Hi. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mauricio, roll call.
Commissioner Lama? Here. Commissioner Syverson?
Here.
Commissioner Viscara?
Here.
Vice Mayor Joseph?
Here.
Mayor Svechin?
Here.
All members present, ma'am.
Great, thank you. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Kat, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. First item, Mauricio, approval of the minutes.
Yes, the first item is item 3A, approval of minutes for June 15th, last meeting.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Next item is the order of business, and there's just one addition, which is 5D, a proclamation at the request of Vice Mayor Joseph for Disability Pride Month.
Great.
A motion to accept that? The change? A motion to
A
accept the
motion.
change.
No, we need first.
Yes.
Second?
I second.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item is now in special presentations, 5A, which is a proclamation presented for Parks and Recreation Month.
Thank you.
Somebody's phone is on.
Maybe it's my phone.
Discussion item. Honorable Mayor, over here. Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, it is my pleasure to be able to speak on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department, who's here in numbers. Thank you all for coming. Great video. National Recreation and Parks Association, it's a national organization that recognizes the month of July for recognition of all of the good things that parks and recreation do for a community. So we have 11 parks, which will soon turn into 12. And we have a great team of people who do programming in all of those parks. And if you all would like to come up, we have a proclamation for you. And the mayor can present it. And Gail, sadly, is not here. She's on vacation. Well, good for her. But we have her assistant director, Paul, is here. We have Nick, Jonathan, Deidre, Norelli. Oh, my gosh. Ron. Sorry. Ina and Jermaine. So a lot of you will recognize these people from being in the parks.
Yeah, rather than read the proclamation, which is very long and has a lot of whereas clauses, I just want to say that I think that we can all agree here on the commission that Parks and Recreation is really the center of our city, since it's everywhere, and has really helped to build our city and made it enjoyable for everyone. And so many of you have been here for so long, and we appreciate it. And those that are new, you know, we appreciate you as well, and I think this is wonderful. So let's go down.
Yes. And
After.
Great.
Thank
Okay.
you all for coming.
All right, let's move on to the next item.
Next item is 5B, the 25th anniversary of the city's police department.
Mayor, if I could ask Luke, Billy, Mike, if you could come up, please.
Oh my God, we didn't do the invocation.
As they're making their way up, this is the 25th anniversary of our city's police department. And the chief is on a much-needed vacation. So the chief is one of our original founding members of the police department. And he sent an email which I would like to share with all of you. An interesting fact I learned today that I haven't known in the years that I've been here, but if you are an original founding member of the police department, on your sleeve, you have a gold star. Sergeant, could you just kind of display that? So that shows that for people that see that gold star, that is an indication that Sergeant Howell, for example, is one of our original founding members of our police department. So I can't say it better than the chief, but I'm going to read what he had to say. Chief says, "To the Sunny Isles Beach Police Department family, I hope this email finds you all in good health and high spirits. I am writing to you today with great excitement and a deep sense of pride as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of our esteemed police department. This significant milestone serves as a testament to our unwavering commitment to protecting and serving the Sunny Isles Beach community. As we reflect upon the journey that led us here, it is important to recognize the extraordinary contributions of our remaining founding members. Lieutenant Mike Mulvey is here tonight, Lieutenant Lee Anastasiou, Sergeant Bill Howell is here tonight, Francis Sands and Sandra Block, who laid the foundation for our department's success. These dedicated individuals have been the guiding force behind our progress and continue to exemplify the true essence of our department's values. I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to each of them for their invaluable service and unyielding commitment. I would also like to honor and acknowledge the exceptional leadership provided by previous chiefs Richard Harrison, Fred Mass, and Dwight Snyder. Their visionary guidance and unwavering dedication have shaped our department into what it is today, a beacon of safety and security for our community. We owe them a debt of gratitude for their tireless efforts in advancing our mission and fostering a spirit of excellence within our ranks. As we celebrate our past accomplishments, it is also vital to recognize that our future lies in the hands of the men and women who currently serve in the Sunny Isles Beach Police Department. Each one of you plays an integral role in upholding our department's core values, ensuring the safety of our community, and building strong bonds with the people we are privileged to serve. Your unwavering commitment to justice, integrity, and professionalism is inspiring, and it is through your collective efforts that we continue to earn the trust and respect of the community we serve. The challenge you face each day require bravery, compassion, and a dedication to the highest standards of service. Your unwavering commitment and sacrifices are deeply appreciated, and I want you to know that your efforts do not go unnoticed. On this momentous occasion, I urge you all to take a moment to reflect on the incredible impact you have made, not only on the Sunny Isles Beach community, but also on the lives of individuals you have touched through your selfless service. Together, we have built a department that not only excels in its duties, but also serves as a role model for law enforcement agencies across the region. As we embark on the next chapter of our journey, let us remain steadfast in our commitment to serving with honor, integrity, and compassion. It is your dedication and unwavering support that we continue to shape our department's future and allow us to overcome any challenges that lie ahead. Once again, congratulations on this momentous occasion. I'm immensely proud to serve alongside each one of you, and I look forward to the bright future we create together. As a founding member myself, I want to thank you for your service, your sacrifices, and for making the Sunny Isles Beach Police Department a symbol of excellence. God bless you all and stay safe. From the Chief. So with that, I think we congratulate you on your 25th year. Thank you for your service. Mayor? anything you'd
Yeah,
like to-
I just wanted to quickly say, I had asked the city manager, why wouldn't we wait until the chief was back from vacation? And today is actually the 25th actual day that you all were sworn in. So it's really incredible. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for everything you do. And I hope that you always feel very supported by us and the city residents. I'm sure you do, but if you don't, always know that you are. And I think that they all wanted to take, were they getting the?
Yes, would you mind taking a photo?
Oh.
Yeah, please.
That's where I didn't have gray hair.
I did not see Rabbi Kaller before. If we can have the invocation right now, it would be very appreciated, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, City staff. Master of the universe, look favorably upon the Mayor, Commissioners, and the staff of the City of Sunny Isles Beach and bestow upon them the joy of life, good health, and prosperity. Bless these people who chose to serve the community and make laws and decisions for the city with wisdom and understanding in their noble pursuit. During this time of the year in Jewish calendar, we find ourselves in a solemn period that commemorates the destruction of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem and the exile of the Jewish people from their homeland close to 2,000 years ago. Our sages tell us that the destruction and subsequent exile was a result of the senseless hatred and division that was rampant in society at that time. The Torah teaches us that the best vessel for God's blessing is unity and peace. And while we are all entitled to our opinions and views, we must learn to disagree without being disagreeable. May we recognize that the response to senseless hatred and division is to invest all our efforts into fostering and nurturing a culture of unity and togetherness through increasing in senseless acts of goodness and kindness. And because every act of kindness we do today brings us closer to a more just and a better tomorrow. Our Father in heaven, give wisdom and strength to our elected officials to be cognizant of your presence and grant them the ability to elevate the quality of life for everyone in our city and to inspire us all to come together in unity and to make our world and our city a better place for all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. That was beautiful. Okay, next item, we have a presentation on Skyline, 5C.
Yes, 5C by Mr. Percy.
No, 5D is after 5C.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Commissioners, staff. Transportation people in general tend to think in terms of cars, trains and airports. The solutions presented in this presentation this evening revolve around pedestrians, safety and public spaces. Provision entitled Sunny Isles Beach Skyline, I meld together those ideas. There we go. I meld together those ideas of both the transportation planners and people that live in cities to come up with an elevated public park that allows pedestrians and other vulnerable road users to have physical separation from the vehicular traffic on currently they share a 1A width. By itself, an elevated grass platform would not be financially viable. However, by integrating environmentally responsible hydrogen-powered electric tram service with a very frequent service connecting both Sunny Isles Beach, Aventura, with Brightline's high-speed rail service at Aventura, that changes the equation and makes this particular solution feasible. Cities evolve organically over time. They respond to the changing conditions, and what we have today is a function of what's been successful and what's been durable. Sunny Isles Beach is developed on a 2.25 square mile barrier island constrained between the waters of the Atlantic Ocean and the Intracoastal Waterway. Looking at data from prior studies, it's hard to escape the conclusion that land here is very, very limited. But it wasn't sort of always that way. Which way do I point this?
Just point. Let me take a look at it, Ken.
There we
Okay,
go.
there you
There we go. So that's the concept of the elevated platform sitting above Collins Avenue. So there's the constraints that we know that we all live under. Going back to the 1930s, we already had quite a lot of cars sitting on the island. And if you go to the 1960s, the Sunny Isles was predominantly single-family homes, 1- and 2-story drive-up motels. Then we move into the 90s. That's where the quantum leap occurred. The game changer, the arrival of high-rise condominiums and hotels has changed what we have here today. The rest, as they say, is history, but it isn't history. It's now. It's our today. It's our children's future, and it's their children's future. It's our duty to plan for the future thoughtfully. This is Collins Avenue as it exists right now. We have a limited amount of space, and Collins Avenue itself is only around about 100 feet wide. To provide more space for one user means taking it away from a different user. It's a zero-sum game, unless we think creatively. And that's what this platform is intended to do. By utilizing the airspace above Collins Avenue, we can create a 36 feet wide platform that's grassed. It includes cycle lanes for cyclists and the tram service that runs right the way through the middle. Having twin lines allows the service to run on a very frequent basis every 5 minutes. The intention is to run this over a very long window, a very long day. we have a lot of people that service our city, and people that come in early in the morning for kitchen workers and housekeeping and restaurant and bar staff at the end of the day. We have landscaping, construction, maintenance, security people. The intention of this service is to perhaps provide a park and ride, so they can park out just outside the city and ride in at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, not needing to bring their cars in, not needing to find somewhere to park. By having pleasant areas with shade trees and seating and ADA compliant elevators and to access the platform, this is intended to be a destination where people can congregate and relax. By linking it to Brightline, it basically brings this public park with the tram service into direct connection with the regional transport network for Florida. And that's sort of a big deal, because if it's just a public park for Sunny Isles Beach, it's just a Sunny Isles Beach project. Once you start linking it to the regional rail network, that's when we can talk to Miami-Dade's Transportation Planning Organization to be looking for funding, and also coordinating with our neighbors in Aventura to sort of see how we can make this work without it just being solely a burden on Sunny Isles Beach itself. The idea is to have stations around about every half mile. There'd be a pair of elevators either side of Collins Avenue and a wraparound stair, so that allows for people to cross Collins Avenue in a safe and ADA compliant manner if they need to actually travel in wheelchairs. And this is there we go. It's very similar to New York City's High Line. That's built on an abandoned rail. It's very, very popular. It's a massive tourist attraction. And we have come up with a scheme that has that level of function, but it includes the core, the transit system at its core. By being green, literally, it'll have a grass surface and a cycle track. That makes it much more appealing to people that are looking onto it, rather than just the tarmac and the blacktop and the cars that we have on Collins Avenue at the present time. And ultimately, it provides 16 acres of new public park. So that would add another public park to the one that you mentioned earlier today. It's an ambitious scheme. There's no doubt about that. But we've looked at the cost for construction and the cost for operation. It's going to cost around about $75 million a mile, and it's 4 miles long. When it's in service, income from several different sources will be about double the operating cost. So this is going to be generating income both for Sunny Isles Beach and for Aventura, and possibly for Miami-Dade as well. I'm not sure what they take. Not going to dwell too much on all those details, but they're in the package. It shows that all costs included, in the third decade, this would be in a cash positive position. If we're able to get funding from state, from Miami-Dade and other sources that minimize the amount of construction cost that needs to be paid, that happens an awful lot earlier. One of the tram manufacturers that I've spoken to says that typically it's looking at 13 to 15 years when this kind of project in this country goes cash positive. The tram that I actually showed on here, that one, is actually manufactured here in the United States, and they have them running in in California and 2 other states presently, and they run in many or several other countries in the world. Obviously, the latest technology, that tram is about 50 feet long and carries about 100 people, but you can link them together up to 4 at a time, so you could carry quite a lot more people. And I'm thinking particularly school time. You may want a bigger one, but most of the time you don't need them. And because it's done through the computer, they just literally stop at the yard, push a couple of commands, and release the second unit, which is then stored in the yard for the rest of the day. What's really needed now, this is a concept. What's really needed now is a feasibility study. And what we feel would come from a feasibility study is a greater understanding of our city's needs, what this particular project could bring, how the greater social benefits from having great separation and safety for our public, and an additional public park, how that would work. Miami-Dade's transport planning organization is the local entity that funds these kinds of feasibility studies. And so what I'm really asking the Commission for today is, can we go to that next step and have conversations with Aventura to see are they interested in this scheme, and with Miami-Dade to see whether this is something that they would be putting on their agenda for funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stuyvesant, did you want to add something?
Well, I think it's a very ambitious project, a very visionary idea, and I really thank you for taking the time and putting all your expertise in this and bringing other people into this project. I was also in the transportation planning forum this week, and I met with the Florida Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Perdue, and a lot of other people, the chairman, etc. And I gave them a little brief of your of this vision, and they seem very excited. So because that first and last mile, trying to put it together to massive transportation is necessary. So again, I thank you, and I just wanted to see where we are on.
So, because this is a presentation, it's not, we can't discuss it. But I think you've met with all of us, and so you've gotten our feedback. And if you'd like to put it on next month, we could put it on as a reso or something like that, or a discussion item. But all I can say now is thank you for the presentation. It's really great when residents come forward and think of innovative ways, and obviously you are an expert, so thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Ken. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, Madam Mayor, is the add-on 5D, the presentation for, or excuse me, the proclamation for Disability Pride Month at the request of Vice Mayor.
Great. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Did you want to say a few words before about it?
No?
I want to thank Catherine for her working with the disabled. I know she's a great advocate, and many people owe a lot to her, and that's why I asked her to please accept this proclamation regarding Disability Pride Month. So in that regard, I would like to present you with this beautiful proclamation.
very much. I was just going to say that's not very ADA compliant over there. I'm a tad too short for that one. I just want to thank everybody that is giving me this proclamation. This is such an honor to even be here. And I just wanted to say a few words about disability pride. For me, disability pride is the perfect measure of humility and courage, because every day we wake up and we have to face the tiniest of obstacles, from getting dressed in the morning to facing, adversities in society of people not really understanding us. And that's basically what it is to have disability pride for me, is just waking up every day and doing the best that I can and making every day count. And the way that I do that is I try to experience as much as I can in society, from everything from indoor skydiving to, going to shake a leg and going on a sailboat. Like, these are the things that I like to do. And one of the things I love most to do is go to the beach. And 6 years ago, when I was crowned Miss Wheelchair Florida, the former mayor, Bud Shaw, and I met. And at first, he didn't even want me to go to his office, and I kind of had to just be like, no, I want to go to your office and talk to you. And I sat down with him. We had about a 20-minute conversation where I told him how difficult it was for me to experience the beaches here in Sunny Isles, because there was no access mat or Moby mat or sea walk, whatever you want to call it, is what it is. And after a little bit of convincing and him telling me, look up how much it costs, send me all the information, and within 3 weeks, it was in Sampson Beach. And it was one of the most proudest moments of my life to have it be there, because it gives me the independence to experience Sunny Isles the way that everyone should. They should be able to see the beauty of the ocean and experience the sunlight on their face. And that's what the beach allows you to do. And, I've gone to other places in South Florida that are a little bit more advanced, which is what I want to talk to you guys about. In South Beach, every other beach has these walks. And here in Sunny Isles, we only have one beach that allows people with disabilities and even people with baby carriages to access the beach freely and not have to struggle to get from point A to point B. So I would just like to say that if we're truly going to celebrate Disability Pride Month, then inclusion should be on all of our minds, and we should find a way to make Sunny Isles more inclusive and allow each of its residents to experience the beauty of Sunny Isles. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Before we go to the opening statement, I know Commissioner Viscar wanted to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted, because we started moving very quickly through things, and so I just wanted to note regarding back to our police department that the chief left himself out of his letter, being humble, but I think I'd like to just recognize him as well. He's been our chief for about a year and a half now, and it's been leaps and bounds under his leadership, and I just wanted to also acknowledge him and the good work that he's done.
Yes, I'd like to second that as well.
Maurice, the opening statement, please.
Yes. Vanessa, could you play the opening statement, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for being here tonight. Please turn off or mute any electronic devices to avoid interrupting these proceedings. In all issues that come before the City Commission, we ask that everyone show mutual respect for one another by listening quietly to each person speaking, and that everyone refrain from any clapping, heckling, or verbal outbursts in favor or in opposition to a speaker. Individuals that do not adhere to Chapter 74, Rules of Procedure of the Code, Particularly, Section 74-21, decorum, shall be barred from further appearance before the Commission. Individuals who want to speak on any item on the agenda are asked to fill out a public speaker's card and give it to the city clerk before the item is called. Speakers are asked to speak to the issues, make comments concise and to the point, and refrain from making duplicate comments. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. If you speak out of turn without permission from the chair and/or do not cease speaking after one warning, you will be escorted out of the chambers.
Great, thank you. And this is just a reminder that we try to be very respectful here, and we need to be ADA compliant, so we have to make sure that we hear everyone so that we have the proper closed captioning. So I ask you that if you come up to speak, to please speak clearly. Please abide by the 3 minutes, and we here on the commission will also do the same. We'll make sure not to talk over each other, and please be respectful. And anyone that's addressing the commission should be addressing them through the chair, which is me, and not to any individual commissioner. Okay, so next item, Mauricio. Well, we don't have any ordinances.
No, nothing. So the next section is resolutions, and it's 10A, which is a resolution establishing the City of Sunny Isles Beach proposed ad valorem tax millage levy rate at 2.000 mils per $1,000 of taxable assessed value, which is 12.43% more than the rollback rate of 1.7789 mils for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Good evening. Honorable Mayor and Commission, the millage rate that's being proposed is 2.0 mils. It's the same rate that existed for this fiscal year. And for the public's information, the gross assessed taxable value increased from last year by about $3 billion, going from $3.6 billion to $15.9 billion. If the millage rate is kept the same at the 2.0 mils, this will increase the ad valorem tax revenues by about $4.5 million. The city is required by the Property Appraiser's Office to certify a proposed millage rate by August 4th of each year, and so this resolution is being brought to you for your approval.
Thank you, Tiffany. For those of you that, well, I don't think it was anyone except maybe 2 people that were here yesterday. We had a public meeting where we had a very, very long workshop. I'd like to thank the commission for sticking through it. It started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I think we ended at almost 9 o'clock, something like that, discussing the budget, but also the millage. So I'd like to hear from the commissioners just to get their point of view as to where they are with the millage rate. Who would like to
Mayor,
start?
do you mind if I
Oh,
just
of
read?
course,
That's
sir.
good.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. We had a late night last night at our public workshop that was open to everyone, where we went through our budget almost line by line. So I'm proud to say that this is our budget and recommend it to you. For the first time in my 10.5 years of being here, we've worked together on developing the document before you. Collectively, you, the City Commission, my office, the finance team, and the department directors have been instrumental in getting where we are today. We started with the budget workshop and you sharing your visions for the next fiscal year, as well as the new budget request forms that you completed. It was a great way to start a fresh budget season where we plan together for the future. You shared your visions of a water park, an under park, pool, and performing arts theater, to name a few. We thank you for that insight, as it provided the foundation for the document before you. We followed with providing you detailed line-by-line budget projections that were submitted by each department, and the opportunity to meet one-on-one for as long as you needed to answer all of your questions. This required all of our departments, and especially the finance department, to advance their deadlines and work long hours to get their projections submitted earlier than years past. I would like to thank them for their hard work and the many hours it took to accomplish that for the benefit of all of us. Once the one-on-one meetings were completed, we went back to work and reduced in areas that we identified could be cut. The number of hours that has already gone into the document this year between the finance department, the department heads, and our office is unprecedented. It's all time well spent to present this budget to you that is truly representative of all that you have said and written. At this time, I would like to point out our role. We have a duty and responsibility to not only be good stewards of tax dollars now, but also to plan for the future. We must give you the best information and tools to make your decision. Too often, decisions are made without proper forecasting, and fortunately for us, we have a very qualified team in Audra and Tiffany. We know that due to payment agreements, we will not receive any TDR or transfer for development rights monies for at least 3 years to come. The fund balance we have now, as well as our tax revenue, must sustain us for that period, inclusive of funding for capital improvement program. With good, safe, and conservative investments, we've been able to grow the fund balance to do just that. As we rely on these experts, I think it's important to note their qualifications. Assistant City Manager Audra Kurtz-Wan is a CPA with over 25 years of experience in government finance. Finance Director Tiffany Neely is a CPA with 10 years of experience in government finance. They are knowledgeable, experienced, and professional stewards of your tax dollars. Working together and individually, this team has won the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for our city for 10 straight years. Next, I would like to address a couple of things that are different in this budget based on some changes we made from last year. We did a 5-year look back for all departments, but this year we did not provide the departments with a target budget. Rather, we had them start at 0 and enter in the detail they needed. Every department except Public Works, due to aging facilities and much needed repair and maintenance, and before adding program modifications and capital outlay, came in under last year's general operating request. A notable rise in general fund expenditures that are greater than last year's, primarily due to the proposed program modifications, which total $5,993,297. An example of a large outlay is a Gateway Park garage repairs and maintenance at $500,000. In years past, this type of expense would have been funded through the capital improvement program budget. However, in discussion with Audra and Tiffany, it is best practice to fund these types of repairs and maintenance in the general fund as per the Governmental Accounting Standards Board 34 definitions. This statement establishes new financial reporting requirements for state and local governments throughout the United States. This avoids the possibility of duplicating a capital item if you are repairing or replacing something that was already capitalized at construction. We are now budgeting this where it properly belongs. However, this is not a permanent increase in your operating or general fund. This is a one-time expense. With continued proper budgeting, we will be able to stagger these large repairs once we get all of our facilities back to Sunny Isles Beach standards. These types of one-time expenses are funded with fund balance, which previously received ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act funds. This accumulated fund balance will now be utilized in the general fund to cover these one-time operating costs. Upon receiving our estimated taxable value notice from the property appraiser, we did a look back at the history of our taxable value, our millage rates, the consumer price index, TDR revenue, and fund balance along our growth. What we learned was very interesting. Of course, our property values have increased as they have all over Miami-Dade County. This is a good thing and a testament to the high level of service we are providing to our residents and property owners. This also holds true for our neighboring municipalities like Aventura, Bale Harbor, and Golden Beach. What is interesting historically is we noted that when there was little to no TDR income received, the millage rate was held steady. We also noted that it was not uncommon for the proposed millage rate to be greater than the rollback rate. Notably, in fiscal year 2001, 2002, it was 41% over the rollback rate, and in 06, 07, it was 23% greater. As a matter of fact, since the inception of the rollback rate calculation for the city in the past 25 years, there are 14 years in which the Commission approved a millage rate greater than the rollback rate. In our history, 2.0 is the lowest millage rate we have ever had, which occurred under this Commission and under our administration. So what does this mean for the homeowners? 3,831 property owners claim a homestead exemption and thereby are covered by the state program known as Save Our Homes. This limits the increase in assessed value to 3% annually. Using a home value based at $500,000 this year and assuming they are assessed the maximum 3% increase, their property tax will be based upon a value of $515,000. That homeowner this year paid $1,000 in municipal taxes. Keeping the millage rate steady at 2.0, the same as it was last year, the homeowner would pay $1,030 next year. This is an increase of only $30. We ran a similar scenario for homeowners that do not have homestead, and based on an average property value increasing percentage of 12.43%, their tax on a $500,000 home would be $124. These are nominal expenses to the homeowner and yet very impactful to the city and our future financial health. This $30 and $124 respectively will ensure the quality level of service our residents expect. Property value increase is a good thing, reflecting the great level of service that we strive to provide. The increase in property values will allow us to maintain the same level of service without raising the millage rate during these times of dramatic increase in cost of construction, fuel, maintenance, and goods and services. Due to the uncertainty of the economy, it is imperative that we maintain a strong fund balance using a conservative approach, and therefore our recommendation is to hold the millage rate the same as it was last year at 2.0. This is the best way we feel to be financially, fiscally responsible while planning and saving for the future. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Who on the commission would like to speak first? On the millage?
Wait, do you want to allow for a public comment first?
I
and
want to
then
hear from the commission first, and then we'll, because this is, we talked about it so much, I want to make sure that the public hears that this is not something that we just, go ahead.
Yes, Stan, can you just go over those numbers? Because I missed those numbers. Sorry, I had to step out.
Okay, so for our proposed 2.0 millage rate for a property that's homesteaded, in the example that we gave, if the property value is estimated to be $500,000, the increase would be $30.
Okay.
For a property that is not homesteaded and an average property value increasing percentage of 12.43%, those homeowners would pay $124.
So wait a minute. So at 500,000, right, homestead property, the increase is $30, and at a value of 500,000 non-homestead, it's 124.
Those are estimates, yes, sir.
Okay.
Because the rate is different.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
But for clarification, that's for the municipal taxes only, so the portion that's paid to the city?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Vizcarra?
Why aren't we hearing public comment first?
I wanted to hear first from the commission, and then we can,
We talked about this for 8 hours yesterday.
but they didn't hear us, that's why.
I'd like to hear what they have to say first, if you don't mind.
Does anyone else want to speak?
I want to hear the people as
I
well.
can wait.
Thank
can
you.
Wait? Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
Norman Edelcup.
I guess my name is Norman Edelcup, former mayor of the city of Sunny Isles Beach. In fact, it's 20 years since I took the role as mayor back in 2003 when our first mayor, Mayor Sampson, died. It's interesting that our commissioners do not want to tell us where they think they want to be until they hear us. So it's hard for me to comment as to why we may or may not object to what you are about to do. But let me take it from a different angle then, and that would be the justification why I believe we should have a lower millage rate. Back in 2003, when I took over as mayor, we were a very small city and had a tax base of maybe $2 or $3 billion and revenue coming in maybe of $7 or $8 million and a millage rate of 3.5%, or 3.5 mils rather. After about 2 years of being mayor, I realized how rapidly our tax base was growing and that leaving too much money in the hands of government was always a bad policy, because if you have the money, you'll find a way of spending it. So I and my commissioners worked out a plan in which we decided that what we would do every year is divide the riches, so to speak. Any increase in tax base, we would share 1/3 to the public by way of a millage reduction, 1/3 to increased operating expenses, and 1/3 towards reserves. We started that policy in around 2006 or 7 during my term of office, which was 11 years as mayor. We lowered the millage rate by approximately that 1/10 of a mil every year for 7 times. Bud Scholl was also on the commission. He was one of our commissioners, and he agreed to keep this plan going because our goal was to try to cut our millage rate in half. And we knew we would get there based on the growth of the city and that there would be still sufficient funds. So moving forward, Bud continued, and also 5 of his 7 years, there was a millage reduction. And Dana Goldman was my last appointee, and when she became mayor, she also continued the policy that has gone on now for over 15 years of lowering the millage rate by 1/10 of 1%. You'll ask maybe, why do we do it so small each year? It was so it would be less painful and that we could basically build up our reserves at the same time. And I may comment that, when we started this plan, we had 10 million in reserves. Today you have 100 million in reserves. When we started doing this plan at 3.5 mils for $500,000 home, that would have been a tax structure of $1,750 if I do my math quickly. By moving it down to 2 mils over the 15 years, we've brought that down to $1,000, or we've saved that taxpayer in the current year $750, and incrementally smaller amounts than the $750, but there was a savings every year. And in fact, if you left the millage the way it was before we even started this plan, you'd be collecting 3.5 mils on roughly $16 billion. So I don't have to do the math for you on that. You'd be collecting nearly double of what you'd be collecting today, because moving it down from 3.5 mils to 2 mils has reduced the overall rate by some 43%. If we ever get it down to 17 and 1.75 mils over the next couple of years, we'll have cut it in half. Again, the reasoning was, and it is again today, that a 1/10 of a mil cost to the city today to lower it from 2.0 to 1.9 costs the city a mere $1.5 million. You have $100 million in reserves. In addition, you have this year, the number that you gave me, $4.5 million in additional real estate taxes if you do not lower it. You also, based on yesterday's review of the budget, have some approximately $3 to $4 million more than your budget reflects in interest income coming in this coming year. And you have approximately $1 million more in franchise and utility taxes than you budgeted. I know generally the philosophy is to budget revenues conservatively and expenses grossly, but
You may go on.
I don't think you should be mindful that, taking a small sliver out each year of approximately $1.5 million is budget busting, nor is it going to determine whether or not in the future that we're not able to keep our capital equipment in place and modernize our affairs. Yes, you may not be getting any TDRs over the next couple of years, but no, you'll be getting another over $1.5 billion of tax assessment increases on new property just from the two projects that are going up, the St. Regis and the Bentley. So it isn't like you haven't been cut off, and I really don't know at this point if all the TDRs have been paid or if there's still a receivable of cash still coming in. No one has answered that question for me. But by and large, what I'm saying is that $1.5 million is a small amount, and yet cumulatively over 15 years, it means a lot to all of our taxpayers. Like I said, it's cut their millage almost in half. And in this trying times where you have a bad economy, you have a lot of people now suffering over the 30 or 40-year inspections. Every little dollar counts, and it may seem very small in 1 year, but cumulatively, it does have an effect. It has an effect of over $25 million if we had never made the change. So I'm pleading with you to at least find and continue the policy that I said over 15 years ago of sharing the wealth, 1/3 to our residents, 1/3 to the operating expense, and 1/3 to reserves. And you have it with $4.5 million. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers?
Yes. Greg Capra.
Couldn't say anything more compelling than that. That was pretty amazing. Hello, Commission, Mayor, Commissioners. I prepared a statement.
Just your name and address.
Greg Capra,
Thank you.
257 Point Siena Island. Commission, you can provide some relief to residents burdened by the inflationary pressures inflicted upon us by Washington by lowering the millage rate. Last year, you added $1 million to the payroll with ongoing yearly increases regardless of performance. There was no thought to the power of these compounding increases to the already bloated budget. The Commission's current focus is misplaced and requires a shift towards a more responsible and sustainable path. In your current budget meeting yesterday, I listened to current and future costs that, in my opinion, are not the main purpose of city government or are not aligned with today's needs. I heard about a water park, a performing arts center, and millions in dollars in discretionary items. I'm reminded of the $1 million spray can art for bridges a year ago. We do not need a mini Disneyland to attract more traffic. Instead, we need commissioners who exercise fiscal responsibility, treating taxpayer money as if it's own. I was alarmed to hear the city manager yesterday express his concern about asking for additional authorization for more spending and not to reduce the millage rate. Extra oversight is not an inconvenience. It's a necessity to ensure that our hard-earned money is spent transparently. I heard commissioners concerned about how they will look when amending a cost, so put more money in now. Do not take the easy way and sign a blank check today. Keep the money leash tight and require additional approval. Stop waste and require accountability. The Commission must be the gatekeeper of taxpayers' money, protecting it from wasteful expenditure. Embrace this duty with dedication and commitment. Many residents today face financial challenges and must cut back. Many are seniors on a fixed income. Yet, there has been no cutback in your spending. Instead, you have a ballooning budget despite others' hardships. Take decisive action today to reduce the millage rate, carefully review budget expenses, and cut back. Hold the city manager accountable for any cost overruns and demand prudent financial planning. Let us stand united in our commitment to responsible governance and financially secure Sunny Isles Beach. Lower the millage rate and cut expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Yes. Lou Thaler.
Lou Thaler, 19333 Collins Avenue, Sunny Isles Beach. I've listened to my two predecessors on the speaker here, but I think there's one thing that your manager has not related, and the people here listening to the conversations of today. Everything is yesterday. Everything is what's happened. You have people who are hurting today. You have people who have had incredible increases in insurance, and they are going to have additional expenses. And I don't care whether it's $124 or $130 or whatever the number winds up. I think you have to look at what's happening today, not what happened 25 years ago or 20 years ago when I started and we went through this. I think you people have missed the boat, and certainly on what the city manager just related. Nothing is what's going on today. Everything is what's happening 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You need to help the people today. People are leaving Sunny Isles Beach. People can't afford to be here anymore. They need the help, as small or as little as we can do or you can do. I think it should be reduced. How much is reduced certainly is in your hands, but I certainly believe it should be reduced. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. Commissioner Lama, would you like to start?
I'll start. All right, just want to, let's go over some numbers here. So can Norman Nettlecup mentioned that we have $100 million in fund balance and reserves. I see in the budget summary, I see as of October 1st, we have $64 million here. Can I get confirmation on that number, please?
Tiffany, want to come on up?
So yes, the 100 million is going to include all funds. The 60 million is general fund. So we do have restricted funds that are restricted just for their purposes. So the building fund, public art trust fund, but the 100 million includes all of those.
Okay. But our savings fund, our reserves are 64 million, right?
Our
fund balance and reserves is 64 million.
In the general fund.
In the general fund, correct.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Correct, yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because you said, you mentioned that we have 100 million.
Commissioner
in
Lama,
reserves, yeah.
we'll do everything through the chair. We're not going to go back and forth with it.
Okay.
Don't go away. Any more questions?
No, just wanted to confirm that. Oh. Well, I'll continue. Nobody wants to speak.
No, you go ahead, and then we'll.
All right. So, okay. So I just wanted to point something out that is, it was interesting yesterday. You know, I wanted to know what's the percentage of properties that are homestead here in Sunny Isles Beach. And that is not even 20% of our properties have homestead, meaning that the rest of the properties are, you know, investors or landlords. So I think that, you know, in our thought process needs to be taken into account. You know, based on $500,000 assessed value for a home, you know, for somebody who has a homestead, you're looking at a $30 increase, which is marginal, it's minimal. I think those are important numbers to keep in mind when we're making our decision, because most of this increase, you know, we keep the millage rate the same, you know, at 2.0. Mind you that we decreased it from the previous year to what we have now. So most of 80% of the $4.5 million will come from landlords or investors. So keep that in mind. The actual person that has a homestead will pay a very marginal increase. So I think that's very important to keep in mind. Let me see what else. And that's all I have for now. I'll come back with some other comments,
Okay.
but you could go ahead.
Vice Mayor, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Thank you.
So for me, to get to the point of reducing the millage, I have a bug about eliminating wasteful spending. And one project that that has come to my attention is the meditation garden at Town Center Park, which was originally presented to the commission at $750,000. Yesterday, in the budget presentation, it was marked at $910,000, and that's not with cost overruns. All of our projects seem to have cost overruns. So you're talking about a project in an unsafe area, which has been relayed to me by our two resource officers when I did a ride around with them last Wednesday. And I would like to have that project nixed. Even I know that I was told that there are contracts out currently, but even if you break the contracts for a $300,000 or $400,000 loss, which probably would not be the case, that it would come to that amount, you're still talking about $700,000 in savings. And if you were to put a tennis court or two there for $80,000 cost, which I was told, you would be well ahead of the game, and you would have enough savings to go towards the millage rate cut. So I would ask the commissioners to reconsider that meditation garden, which is absolutely not needed. You have Sampson Park across the street. If someone wants to sit and read a book on a bench under a shade tree, you have that. It was a poor idea, and if we find poor ideas, we should be smart enough to nix it when we find it and not proceed willy-nilly. And that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
And that would get me to being able to get to the millage rate reduction.
Okay, we're discussing just the reduction right now, or or approving the recommendation. Commissioner Viscar, did you want to go next? Thank you.
Okay, so we had very lengthy discussions about this yesterday, and so the commission knows where I stand. I favor holding steady at the 2.0 based on the many more hours that our expert staff has dedicated to it, and they looked at it a lot more closely than most people, and I trust their recommendation. I'm swayed by a few things. First of all, the absence of the TDRs coming in. Historically, that's how the city has done it in the past. If you know that you're not getting TDRs or you're running out, you hold. We already have one of the lowest millage rates in the county, and I would argue probably the state. We already, I think the city manager touched on some of the points that I was going to make. We have the uncertainties of inflation, rising costs. We already had, for example, with the Central Island project, we put it out to bid. We thought it was going to be a certain amount. It came back 4 or 5 times what we expected it to be. Everything is going up. There's a lot of uncertainty around that. We have increasing population. We need to have the resources to ensure the delivery of all services, programs, repairs, and we also have to think about future planning while protecting our what I call our piggy bank, which is something our city has done quite well by following the advice of their experts in the past. Circumstances change from year to year, and right now we're looking at a lot of uncertainty. I don't think that this is the time to think about the small picture. We have to think big picture. We have to think long term. We have to think about the long-term stability of the city. I went back to our auditor's presentation a few months back. I think it was in May, and they mentioned, well, these are your peer cities, and this is how you can who you can compare yourself to based on where how you're situated financially. And they mentioned Aventura, who is holding steady this year. They mentioned Hallandale, which is holding steady this year. And they mentioned Winter Park, which is not down here, but because of how we're situated. And they've had their public discussions, and they're looking to either hold steady or go up, because they have the things that they raised were appropriately funding their parks, police, fire, and their library, and the increasing costs associated with that. So if we just look outside here, the trend is not lowering. It's holding steady. If you're an affluent city, you're holding steady. You're thinking ahead, and you're thinking long term, because we don't know what the inflation and the other. We're in uncertain financial times. And for that, we have to plan ahead so that we can provide the best services for our residents, thinking of our residents. And to Commissioner Lama's point, $30 a year is not a lot. I know it's something. We would like it to be zero, but $30 a year is not a lot. $124 for a landlord is not a lot. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, they pass it on to our tenants. They don't need the tax to pass it on. They raise the rents because of the market, because they know they could, and they'll do what they want. $124 is not going to make it or break it for them. So again, looking at our peers, looking long term, thinking big picture, I think that this is the responsible way to go. And maybe we can have a different conversation next year, but this year, to me, it makes sense to hold it at 2.0.
Commissioner Lama, you wanted to?
Yeah,
With all due respect, the public, I know, but the comment is closed. Go ahead, Commissioner Lama.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something, just on cost, just to continue a little bit of what Commissioner Vizcarra mentioned. So, we need to, one, we have the Central Island Drainage project that is coming up. We had budgeted $6 million based on some, some projections and some input we received from a company. But that now, the bid came back at $25 million, which is a little questionable. But let's run some numbers, for instance, because this is what budgeting is about, right? Let's say the Central Island Drainage Project is going to cost us $10 million, right? We talked at length yesterday about the Parks Master Plan. We took out some costs. That landed at $6 million, right? The parks need some repairs. They need something else. We're trying to make our parks a little more engaging, et cetera. That's $6 million. Our facility repairs, Gateway Center alone, it's $500,000. The government building in my office, when it was raining, it was probably about 2 months ago that it rained continuously that whole week. There was water intrusion everywhere. In my office too, the window, there was water intrusion. That needs to be fixed. Let's put that at a conservative $2 million to repair all of our facilities, okay? You're looking at $18 to $20 million right there, okay? And take into account that 80% of the property owners here are landlords or investors, okay? We need to consider that. And that our homeowners, the ones that have a homestead, will have a minimal increase given the economic winds that are happening, okay? We need to be, fiscally responsible. We need to, I think, in my opinion, preserve cash, because we have major projects coming up. After we complete those, we could look at lowering the millage rate, but we have hard expenses. We're not talking about, entertainment. We're not talking about leisure. We're not talking about anything else. The three costs I mentioned here are hard costs that we must do. So take that into consideration. And take into consideration that, again, not even 20% of the properties here are homestead. So who's this tax break for? For the investors, for the landlords? I mean, let's ask ourselves that. Because rent is going to be set by market prices. And landlords, you know, whether they raise 200, 300 a year, whatever it is, they're going to go by market price. And unfortunately, South Florida has gone crazy with rents. You know, so it is not because of the tax increase or the tax decrease. They're not looking at that. You know, so we have inflation that we don't know what's happening with inflation. The Federal Reserve is trying to control it. They haven't been able to control it. So, you know, we need to take this into consideration. Every wise corporation, every wise entity preserves cash. We're not looking to raise taxes. We're looking to keep them the same, be conservative, and then see what happens. Given all the uncertainty, well, the only certainty we have is that we have these major projects. Okay, so, you know, this cost is not going to be paid by the homesteaders that live here. It's going to be paid by people that don't have homestead. So 80%. So keep that in mind, please.
If I may add one more thing I missed in my notes.
Are you finished,
Sorry.
Commissioner Lama?
Are you done?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Just
Commissioner
one more
Scar.
comment. Thank you. We received a letter from the county saying, oh, property values went up, you should consider, I believe, you know, they said lowering it. But I just wanted to comment on that letter that they're not looking at our details. As far as I know, that where I've checked, everybody got that letter. So it's not special to us. They're just looking at property values, which we all acknowledge went up. But they're not looking at the details of our projects like what Commissioner Lama has just mentioned. They don't know what our particular circumstances are. It's kind of like a blanket letter. So I also was not persuaded by that.
Thank you. Commissioner, public comment is closed. I know, but public comment is closed.
Maybe at the end we should allow some people to talk. I would like to hear Mayor Edelkov to what he has to say. Okay.
Commissioner Stevenson, you're next.
So undertaxing and overspending is very irresponsible. So we must properly tax and properly spend. And like former Vice Mayor Lou Taylor said, we must adjust to reality, to today. Spending because we had the money is, again, grossly irresponsible and dangerous, a dangerous fiscal course. Overspending and expanding entitlement programs, because we do have that. We have a lot of programs, a lot of freebies for a lot of people, not only our residents. It's very imprudent and it's not the best thing to do or the best practice. So we can no longer avoid making hard decisions. And we need to get used to that the TDRs are not coming back. We have very few opportunities of getting TDRs again. So we need to get used to spending what we know we can make and what we know we can have. So I do agree that we should lower at least the 1/10 of a mile. I also would like to see more transparency and publish this book so that people can see it, so people can read it, so people that has knowledge about finances, they can have an opinion and participate in this, in what we are doing right now in this discussion. I think we should publish as well the programs and the events that we have and the cost of those programs in those events. Because, for example, I was really surprised, and by the way, we have an amazing anniversary and the party was incredibly great. But I was surprised that it cost $160,000 that evening. I was surprised that for next year, we are budgeting $190,000 for that evening alone. That is the price of a small apartment in one evening. I was surprised that only the drone show was $45,000 or around that amount of money for 11 minutes of a show, which is 1 minute of the drone show was around $4,000. So because we are a rich city, that means that we are going to spend and overspend. And also, I don't think we should be penalizing the people for being a landlord. good for you if you had the opportunity to buy properties, etc. So I see in our budget book right now the opposite of being conservative. I see blank checks that we are giving to the staff without knowing how it's going to be spent. I know it has to come to us for approval eventually, but as of right now, with those big amounts that we have in there, we are not allowed to have the conversation that maybe we should be lowering the millage rate. So I am in favor of lowering, and I'm really in favor of being a little bit more conservative. And maybe it's true that we live in what I believe is the greatest city in Florida, if not in the whole United States and in the world. And that's what I wanted to be sitting down here and to be able to have the opportunity to speak in behalf of the people. And this budget, and I appreciate the time that it was put into it, and I know we have a lot of experts, etc., working on them. But also, if we go and we see the details, we have a lot of consultants for everything in this book. So we have such a good staff, but at the same time, we need to continue hiring people and consultants to help you make decisions. So it cannot go both ways, and we have to make a decision. And I know the decision is not going to be to, we are always not going to make happy everybody. So some people is going to be upset if we say yes, some people is going to be upset if we say no. I'd rather keep happy the people that we need, that sit us down here, which are our taxpayers, the people that is paying to have this book made, and that we are spending their money. And I don't believe we are spending the money of the taxpayers in a responsible way, the way it's written in the budget.
Thank you. Did you want to add something? Please go ahead.
Yes, please. Another budget item that I know that could be cut in my conversations with the police department are the red light cameras. They've expressed to me, and Luke, if you would have anything to say regarding the red light cameras. I know you've had discussions and...
Vice Mayor, everything goes through the chair.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Would you like to?
It's not the time to speak about.
Okay. All right, so I'll say what then I have to say.
Oh, please.
I know that in your discussions, and I've had discussions with the salesperson as well, which have not been honest in my perception, in order to lure us into making a mistake with the red light cameras, and that alone is another $1 million in the budget. That with the meditation garden, nixing that as well, we're at least a $1.7 million savings that could certainly go towards the give backs. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to add, Commissioner Lama?
Yeah, I have a PSA.
About this?
Kind of. So, in doing our numbers yesterday, it was really mind-boggling that, we learned that we have about, 22,000 registered properties here? Something like that, Susan? More, 25, right? Okay, so we have 25,000 properties here in the city. Now, the census, the population that our census came back with is under 25,000, meaning that we have about one person per property, okay? This is critical, because whenever you get a census, obviously the census just happened, there was a low response rate to the census. Keep in mind that when you fill out a census and it goes back to the federal government, resources are allocated based on that. So please, next time you see a census, but I just wanted to put that out there. So, but going back to the millage rate, I rent out an apartment here, and believe me that the millage rate staying the same or being lowered, it's really not going to have a big impact. With the rental rates the way they are in South Florida, it's incredible. So, keep that in mind. I think we got to be mindful. We need to be responsible again, because we do have hard costs that have nothing to do with parties, have nothing to do with extracurricular activities, etc. or a meditation garden. So I think that should be taken into consideration.
If I may.
Thank you.
But,
Yes, please, go ahead.
But it sent the message that we need to be more responsible with the numbers. So that if we are not getting that big chunk of money, because 1.5 million is a lot. So if we are not getting that, so we need to cut somewhere to balance the budget. So the message is out there that little 1/10 of a mile goes a long way. You know, so we tell the staff that we're looking with detail, and that we are not okay with those numbers. So at least if we can accomplish that, we'll be accomplishing a lot.
Thank you. Okay, is it?
I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. I mean, keep in mind we have hard costs coming up. We need to repair. There's different things. Obviously, you know, we have an economy, and people have been affected by that. But you know, we're not raising taxes. We're keeping it the same. It's a minimal impact on the homesteaders. And I think that the responsible thing to do is to preserve some cash, get done with some of these projects, and then next year we revisit to see where we are, you know, where the economy is, et cetera.
But
that's my opinion.
No, you may have, of course, let's just one at a time so that it's captured, yes.
But also there is a magical word, and it's budget amendment. So whenever something happened that we could not see in advance, like COVID, like when COVID hit or whatever it is, for good or for bad, then we can do an amendment. So we always had that option as well. But again, given the state of the economy, the state of the city, etc., I do believe we owe to the people to continue in the same track and direction that we were going.
Does anyone else have anything else they want to add? Okay, so go ahead, Commissioner Viscar.
I think this will be my last comment, but regarding the budget amendments, we want to have a document that's as predictable as possible, as stable as possible, and we talked about this yesterday. Obviously, things happen right now. This is for estimate purposes, and what we believe based on our estimates will serve that purpose. When you have too many amendments, we know some are inevitable. We've experienced it, and that goes back to the unpredictability of the rising costs, et cetera. But when you have too many, if the plan is to basically propose something that we know is not viable, with the purpose of amending it at every turn or many turns, that it does not make for a good budget. That has other impacts that we talked about yesterday in terms of if we ever need, God forbid, in a catastrophe situation, if we ever need a loan, et cetera, et cetera. So predictability and stability and forward-looking is what I believe are the best practices we need to embrace.
Okay, anyone else? Did you want to add? Please
Just
go ahead.
one other thing, that since we receive a line item budget, we should be able to, and we're all smart enough to look at the budget and be able to nix a certain item that was either approved by a previous commission without knowing the full facts, or without at that time knowing what the final cost would be, and maybe if they did know what the final cost would be, they would not have approved it in the first place. Referring to the meditation garden, which is now, the last numbers were $910,000 without any overruns, which is, no one would ever build a $910,000 plus meditation garden. It just is ridiculous. But in any regard, we also have the red light cameras, which on additional information that also would not work out to our benefit. And I'm just talking about
I'm just going to
going
interrupt you
over line
for one moment. Please, we can hear you up here. It's somewhat disruptive. Mr. Thaler, please, thank you. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yes, so we should be able to look at line items and be able to be, forward-thinking enough to nix those in order to accomplish another end.
Okay.
I'll just...
Go ahead.
Okay. No, just to go to your point, Vice Mayor, I think that, I mean, obviously staff gets input from us, right? We've talked about Winter Wonderland. We've talked, in the previous commissions, we talked about the meditation garden. So I think they get direction from us to budget those things. It doesn't mean we're going to spend it. We could nix those. You know, we could definitely nix those. But just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, they're going by our instructions, whether it was at a previous time. So I think they're just going by the direction that we gave them, because the direction was to have a meditation garden. We've had some advanced conversations with the artist, with the architect, etc. So it is up to us to give them another direction and perhaps tell them, you know what, let's nix that, like you're saying now. But I wouldn't put that on them because they're just following our directions at the end of the day. And so, for instance, with what other thing? The red light cameras. Commissioner Vizcarra brought it up. We had a discussion, and we directed staff to look into that. Right? The PD came up, gave us a presentation on that. So I just wanted to clarify that it just doesn't appear out of nowhere, because we initiated that discussion. And they're taking our lead or our direction. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Commissioner Vizcarra, go ahead.
And as we mentioned yesterday, especially with regard to the red light cameras, it's far from being a done deal. Like we've just had those conversations, and the numbers are different than they initially were. So it's an evolving conversation. It's not set in stone. It is just there in case we decide to go forward with it.
Commissioner Stuyvesant?
And that's part of the point, that the numbers can change. So the accuracy of the prediction, it depends on the accuracy of the calculations. So if those calculations are high, then the prediction of how much money we need is also going to be high. And so if we're predicting right now, like I said, and I know we give directions, Alex, like you said, but sometimes we don't even know, because, for example, I had no idea that we had approved a $160,000 budget for the party of the city anniversary. And right now, until I asked for, I didn't know that now we are approving $190,000 for the same event. I didn't know until also I asked how much was going to be certain programs. Like, for example, we are going to have play dates that are going to cost $10,000 per play date for our little ones. Also, we are going to be giving aftercare for $100 a month. That is $5 to $6 per day. So our aftercare is cheaper than a combo in McDonald's per day. So, yes, we are giving direction, but maybe those directions, we are not seeing them so specific in the book until we ask for. So I don't feel comfortable. Like I said, it is far away from being conservative. The accuracy of the prediction depends on the calculations. If we don't have the right numbers, if those numbers, they are not clear in front of us, but they are hidden, not on purpose, but they are not that clear to find in the book, then maybe we are not making the most accurate decision as well.
So, okay, this is why we were here yesterday from 9 to almost 9. Yes, you may say something, but I just want to remind you. No, you're not hogging it. I just want to. I want to move the conversation so we're not repeating ourselves.
Yeah. So really quick, I agree. We need to be conservative. We're not going to be overspending. Obviously, it is our responsibility to be fiscally, conservative, responsible, etc. It is the taxpayers' money, but a lot of these. We get requests from the people, from the residents. They want this, they want that. And then we go out there and we say, yes, let's put this together, let's put that together. Perhaps we need to have, more communication among each other, the residents, et cetera, on what we really want, what is too expensive, maybe have some sort of tiered approach to some of these events, perhaps. But, what really keeps me awake at night is not the $10,000 play date or the juice jam, et cetera, that we have in there. But really is, fixing the facilities, okay? I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about the central drainage because it's been flooding forever and it keeps flooding around the church. I'm concerned about staffing. We are not being able to hire people. We're losing people, whether it's because of low salary, whether it's because, there's better benefits somewhere else. Whatever the reason is, we have a reality where we need to bolster some of these departments. It's not overspending. It is running a city the way, it should be run. We could cut back in some of these, let's say, entertainment activities. We could cut back, perhaps, we could scale down the party, the celebration. I think the residents had a great time. Perhaps not that one. I think it was really good. But we could look at different things. I agree with you. But what keeps me awake at night is what I just told you. The flooding of the city, the facilities that need to be fixed, the staffing, and that's what kind of keeps me awake at night.
And not the last time.
Thank you.
Not
Please.
the last time. So, but two things. I think we are doing this to ourselves because, for example, last year we buy dozens of new cars. Right now, we are again budgeting to buy more than a dozen cars. And guess what? Now we need a fleet maintenance to maintain the cars that we are buying. So now we have to build a mini auto shop to maintain very basic maintenance, but to maintain the cars that we are buying. I don't think we are growing in the population in the way that we are growing our spending. That is my point. And that is what really keep me also awake at night. Last night, honestly, I could not sleep after yesterday. My head was like moving with all the numbers because it is too much spending. And another example is that, like I said, I have a toddler. I use our playgrounds. Right now, we have here in the budget to take out one swing and replace it with a new swing when they're working. So why do we need to be replacing things that they are good? Maybe they are not perfect. Maybe they are old. But we are just going to be replacing old because it's old. That is also not best practices. So, and that is my point. We need to be a little bit more conservative because we don't know what's going to be happening tomorrow. If this was our money from our home, I can assure you we will not be spending it this way.
Thank you. Okay. So I want to address some of the things that were mentioned by the commissioners. And again, I thank you for taking the time to really express yourself because it's important that the public understands your point of view. So one of the things that I think Commissioner Vizcarra says was, and Commissioner Lama regarding the rent, the rents are increased certainly for a lot of reasons like the market value, but any increase that a land owner has, they're going to pass it on, even if it is only $30. For someone that's renting, especially if you're renting in one of the older buildings, it's significant. But it's not just that. When people have a hard time paying for bills, they start looking at different ways to make additional money. And I think that it has an effect on how many Airbnbs we have, on how people are renting out in general. But that's, like you said, is it really going to make a huge difference? Maybe not, but it will certainly have an impact. The other thing was about the lowering of millages in other cities. Yesterday I spoke to Mayor Weinberg from Aventura, and he actually is going to be recommending lowering the millage in their city. They have the lowest millage in all the county. I believe that Mayor Livian Cava is also going to be making a recommendation to lower the millage. I think that you made a very good point, Vice Mayor, about being careful with the budgeting and spending, but I think that if we lower the millage, we look closer at those sort of projects to potentially then maybe wait on them or cut them or whatever it is that we maybe not have in the past looked at so closely because there was more money. And again, we're not talking about a large amount of money. One of the things that we didn't talk about is the revenue. All of these programs, yes, they do cost something, but we're also getting revenue. We're also getting more tax revenue in general, not just the increase because of the $3 billion in additional real estate value. So that, along with the interest income, more than covers the repairs that you were mentioning, Commissioner Lama, which are absolutely, I don't think anyone in this commission disagrees. The repairs need to get done. And lastly, I want to say that we're not a private corporation, we're a government, and the way that we need to act is we have to keep remembering with every single vote, this is the people's money. The money that we currently have was generated and saved and gathered because of the people's money for all of these years, and we have to be very careful. And if we have an opportunity to lower the millage, which I believe we absolutely do, we should. It sends a message that we are being careful. It sends a message that we care, and it basically makes us more accountable. It makes the staff more accountable, which is not in any way a reflection of not trusting someone. It's just we want to make sure that everyone is doing the right thing and that we are all on the same page. And the page that we should be on is the taxpayers and what they would want. And I don't know any taxpayer that would want to pay more in taxes. So with that, I'll take a motion.
If I may just comment
Yes,
one
of course,
thing.
go
Last
ahead.
comment, Aventura voted today to hold steady.
Okay, but they wanted to lower it. No, I understand that, but my point is that there is, it's not so much that there is a trend to keep it steady. There are those that want to lower it. And by the way, just so everyone knows here, whatever we vote on today, it could change when the budget is finally approved. So there is still an opportunity for those that are in the audience or those that are watching from home to come and approach us and let us know what you think, either by email or by coming to a commission meeting, and you will have another opportunity to speak. And if you want to speak at the end during discussion items, you can do that. That will be open, and until the meeting is adjourned, this item, regardless of how it's voted on, could come back for an additional vote. So with that, I will take a motion. We can wait till the end. We're not going back and forth, Jody, please, okay? I made a very specific comment in the beginning that we're going to be respectful and we're going to follow decorum, and we're going to follow the agenda. And I made it very clear that I'm not going back and forth. I'll take a motion.
So the motion is to,
Approve the millage at the recommendation of the manager.
that, so moved.
Second.
Okay, this is a resolution.
All in favor?
All in favor?
No.
Can I request a roll call?
Please, go ahead.
Commissioner Lama,
Yes.
Commissioner Viscara,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joseph.
Being that we haven't consented to any of the cuts in the issues that I brought up, I would vote yes to hold.
Commissioner Stuyvesant,
No.
Mayor Svechin.
No.
The resolution passes 3-2.
Great, thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is a resolution of the City Commission approving an agreement with the State of Florida, Office of the State Attorney for the 11th Judicial Circuit of Florida to reimburse the state for the cost of state attorney prosecution of certain criminal violations of the Code of the City of Sunny Isles Beach.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission. The Police Department is seeking to enter into an agreement with the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office to prosecute municipal ordinance violation as authorized by Florida statute. Specified in this agreement are the reimbursement terms to the state attorney for the costs associated with the prosecution of violations of municipal code for the period of October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. In return, the state attorney will provide clerical and professional personnel required for the performance of any prosecutorial functions.
In absence of the mayor,
Yeah, Jerry.
Vice Mayor, please.
So, yes. Any discussion?
Vice Mayor, if we can open up a public comment just for the record, even though we have none. for the record.
Okay, so we have no public comment, so Commissioner Viscara?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
I have no
Commissioner Lala?
comment. No
No?
comment.
No
I'm in
comment.
agreement.
No comment? And I also have no comment. So,
Motion?
is a motion?
Yes, make a motion.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was very different from the previous item, Luke. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is 10C, a resolution approving a First Amendment to the project agreement with Rodriguez Architects to provide professional architectural services for a new structure at the property located at Bella Vista Park.
Okay.
Evening, Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. This resolution is for additional funds for the architect to work on the building, which is the Marine Police Office down at Bella Vista Park. Through preliminary designs, it's grown in size and complexity. We have a floor elevation that we have to deal with. Where for that area of town, it's got to raise the floor about 4 feet over grade. So the foundation's more involved. There's going to be ramps. So the whole thing got more complex, and the architects requested some additional funds.
Is there any questions from the commission? Commissioner Viscara?
No questions.
Commissioner Lama? No, I'm good. Vice Mayor?
Yes. So are we now having a boat launch there, or no?
No.
No,
No,
just
it's going to be
ramps?
Marine Patrol with a couple of boat lifts right now.
Right.
And an
Okay.
office for parks for future use,
Perfect. Okay.
undefined use at this point.
So nothing for residents? No launches for residents or anything?
No launches at this time, no.
Right. Okay.
Commissioner Stuyvesant? Okay. The only question I had was how much we're paying per square foot, because it just seemed that we're adding not a lot of square footage, but paying a lot more. So I'd like you just to clarify, please, why the additional cost, why it's so much more than the square footage cost would normally be.
Well, originally, we were planning to work with what's there and build a foundation and pretty much at the grade that's there. So now with our finished floor issues, we have to basically clear it out, build a stem wall foundation, and work with that. The other item we changed is we originally looked at about 1,000 square foot building with a roof. Now we're looking at about a 1,150 square foot building, but the roof's about 2,300 square feet, I believe. So we're creating a lot more shaded patio area as part of the project.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a motion.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item.
10D is a resolution approving a third amendment to the agreement with Craig A. Smith Associates for civil engineering services for the Central Island pump stations and drainage improvements.
Go ahead.
This is, if you recall, last commission meeting, we, I'm not sure what the word was, we canceled or we did not accept the bid on, for our Central Island pump station project. We decided to rebid the project. As part of that, we had to go back and work on our specifications and our bid package, which resulted in additional consultant time. So this 5750 is for additional consultant expense to work on the rebid package, as well as move forward with the bidding and analysis of the bids when we get them back in.
Thank you. Commissioner Viscara, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Lama?
Yeah, I just hope we could get some more bids and and we could get the project started as soon as possible, because it's much needed to, improve the drainage around that area, for sure.
And that's the goal. We had contacted some of the pre-bid attendees and discussed with the contractor some issues they had with the package.
Okay.
And then we incorporated that into a new package. So we're hoping we get additional bids that are market price.
Okay, all right.
Vice Mayor?
Well, thank you. Yeah.
No question.
I'll take a motion.
Keep us informed, please. I'm curious to know how that's progressing, please.
As it stands now, we're probably going to have a package ready in August. So we're If we bid it in August, we're probably going to give them 3 months to bid it, which puts us into October. Then through agenda and awards, we'll probably actually try to get started in January after the holidays.
Thank you.
With
Perfect.
physical construction.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take a motion?
And, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was
go
just going
ahead.
to say, Commissioner, we'll give you updates through the manager's monthly report.
Yeah.
And also, once we go out to bid, you'll get the email about the cone of silence, because once it's out to bid, we
Yeah.
cannot.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Thank you.
I would like to see that as well, Susan, if you don't mind.
We all get the, update. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get that, Mauricio?
Yes, I got it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 10E, approving a second amendment to the agreement with CT Mechanical to provide extended warranty and maintenance services for the air conditioning system at Gateway Park Community Center.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and City staff. We are seeking for the approval of the Second Amendment to the agreement with CT Mechanical to provide extended warranty and maintenance services for the air conditioning system at the Gateway Park Community Center in an amount not to exceed $59,000 and $192.30.
Commissioner Viscar?
No questions.
Commissioner Lama?
No questions, no.
Vice Mayor?
No, I just know that the air conditioning has been a problem since the beginning of the
Yeah.
gateway. So hopefully this corrects it.
Commissioner Stipes? No? I neglected to ask for public comment, and you did not remind me.
And I apologize.
Did we have any?
For the record, there was no.
No, for the
public
record, we
comment,
didn't. Thank you. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Next
much.
item?
Next item is 10F, approving a resolution approving a letter of agreement with Perkins and Will to provide additional structural design services related to the emergency generator at Gateway Park.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. This is another extension to the agreement for the design of the structural requirements for the generator at Gateway Center. Previously, we had hired the structural engineer to do an analysis of the deck to see if it would support the generator. That all came back positive, so now we're moving to the next step, which is design of the pad for it to sit on. And that would be the last component of that package.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions.
And public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Before I take a motion, I wanted to ask the city manager something, and if anyone on the commission disagrees with me, please speak out. If possible, I'd like to see how much we have spent cumulatively on Gateway with construction costs as well as the maintenance, the annual maintenance, just so we get a better sense of the total, because if people ask me how much it costs, I ballpark it, and I think I'm totally wrong. I say 40 million, I'm assuming that's
But you want
way
to
up.
have the redo amount also.
Well,
There were a lot of redos.
well, just
Yeah.
everything. I'm asking for everything. Is everyone in agreement? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I'll take a motion.
I'd like to see it myself.
Mayor, can you
Yes.
just to clarify, so you would like to know the amount of money we've spent on the construction of Gateway and our annual operating cost?
Not just, not necessarily the operating costs, the maintenance costs.
Maintenance.
So what we've paid in addition, for the air conditioning, for replacement of doors, generators, those sort of things that are out of warranty.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have a question. Are you taking into account the errors in the architectural design?
Well, just the entire, just.
All expenses.
All expenses. So, yes, thank you. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item.
10G is a resolution ratifying a third amendment to the lease agreement between the City of Sunny Isles Beach and Suffolk Construction Company to extend the term of the lease agreement to July 31st, 2023.
My apologies. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, as you know, we entered into an agreement with Suffolk Construction. It was set to expire June 30th. They asked for a 1-month extension. They asked for it after the last commission meeting, so the city manager, under his authority, approved it so that they will leave. Actually, they're leaving next week, and we got an additional $20,000, which was the monthly rent for this extra month.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any comments from the commission?
$20,000 more is good.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question regarding the possibility of putting that property out for bid. I know we were discussing moving the building department in there, but that's not what I see happening. I would like to see that be a restaurant, and I'd like to throw it out to everyone else for their ideas.
Well, right now, we're voting on this resolution.
I think that's part of 12.
So,
Okay.
Do we have any public comment?
No, ma'am.
I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
10H is a resolution adopting a dune master plan. Mayor, Commissioners, this item is being presented on behalf of the ESAC, the Environment Sustainability Advisory Committee. As you all may recall, at the last meeting last month, the ESAC presented the proposed dune master plan, as it was also presented the year prior from the previous iteration of the ESAC committee. So just as a reminder, this is just being presented, and if it's adopted, it will be purely a recommendation for all the developers and any future developers that may want to install a dune.
Okay, does anyone in the commission have a comment?
Yes.
Go
I
ahead.
do.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I would like to table this item for tonight, since no one is here representing ESAC that can answer questions from the previous committee, and I have additional questions that cannot be answered tonight prior to any voting.
Okay, does anyone else have any comments?
I don't see the harm in postponing if that's important to the vice mayor. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, if the vice mayor had any questions, and ESAC's not here, I think the prudent thing to do is to perhaps postpone it. That's my opinion.
There's a public comment.
you have-
Mayor.
Public comment?
Yeah, Jody Joseph.
Okay.
Hi, Jody Joseph, 18560 North Bay Road.
Please speak up if you would.
Sure. Actually, I was just trying to finish last month what, again, our mayor wouldn't permit me to do. I was just trying to say that on my research, I have found out that the sea grapes and the sea oats, it's just not everything is so positive, that they do draw wasps, all different areas, kangaroo mice, rats, which, okay, everybody understands that. And luckily, we do have cats that eat the mice. But my biggest problem is if we could meet halfway. I was told that we cannot, if we have the sea oats planted, we cannot have, and I was speaking to this young lady, Catherine, who graced us this evening, that we think it's very important to have, and there's so many names for that, a beach walk, a sand walk, a boardwalk on the beach, and that we can't have that if we plant the sea oats. And sea oats, again, are completely different from the dunes, which I don't think people understand that. Dunes are high dunes, and they're really not going to keep anything out should there be a storm. But the point being, I attended the beautiful celebration as well. I think it was spectacular, it was amazing, and it was worth every penny. But with that being said, Catherine was there in her wheelchair. I met several people, young people, trying to push strollers. The strollers, they were very upset, would not budge on the beach. And then we also have, which we're very thankful for, the wheelchairs with the very large wheels on them. And we had one person, and yet they had to have two people on both handles pushing. They could not move on the sand. it's impossible. And then we had people with walkers, and I spoke to every single one of them. So I think it's really, really imperative that we take care of our residents that want to enjoy the beach. Actually, Catherine got run over in her wheelchair on Collins Avenue, and they said they couldn't see her because it was too low. Everybody would love to have some kind, anyone that I've spoken with, I guess that's just my opinion, some kind of a walk on the beach that people could enjoy. We're always talking about safety to keep people off of Collins Avenue. And I know I have 3 minutes. Also, I have a friend of mine whose son is autistic, and she'll be coming here to do a presentation. And I didn't even think of this, but she said, I know it's terrible where you live because we don't even go there. They go further up on Miami Beach, I think near the old Eden Rock. And she said it's beautiful because she cannot bring her son to walk on Collins Avenue. He's nonverbal, and he just takes off, and his hands flail, and he'll run into the traffic. And she said it's so beautiful where they're living on the beach because they could walk on the boardwalk with her son. So all in one breath, we're all talking about, to me, I'm very concerned with wounded warriors and St. Jude and Tunnels to Towers and Shriners. Now, how can we all say this is so important to us? I'm sure many people here even donate. And then say, well, we don't really need a boardwalk because the oats are more important. I'm just hoping that we could come to a happy medium, and I think we really need to work on this boardwalk because we do have a lot of people with walkers and wheelchairs and strollers, and it's just really difficult for them, and they have a right
finish up, please?
To walk on the beach.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, so procedurally, if we don't get, because we discussed this at length at the last meeting, so if we don't have a motion, then the item just dies.
It
We're
fails, yes. If
Okay.
there's no motion to approve, then.
So do I have a motion?
So we can't defer it? I think
Well,
that's what the vice mayor is seeking.
It's being presented as a resolution to approve the Dune Master Plan. So procedurally, if we can go through the motion to see if there's a motion to
Yeah, we
approve
go through it first
Well, you
and then.
can't, you can move to defer prior to consideration of the item. So if they do want to move to, if someone wants to move and there's a second to
I
defer.
apologize, I
you
thought
can
I
do that.
heard a motion to approve already.
No.
No?
No.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right, so.
We have a motion to defer.
Go, make your motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to defer.
Okay, I'll
Is there a
second.
second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
So the motion is to defer the item 4-1.
Is there a date certain, or did you want to defer indefinitely
Next month.
for the next meeting?
Does that have to be in the
When-
motion?
when-
It doesn't, but
Vice
just for
Mayor.
edification for us, so we can be prepared to put it back on.
When someone from the appropriate person that can
Vice
answer
Mayor.
questions would be present.
When is our next environmental meeting?
Marlene left. I'll find out
That's
for you,
okay.
Mayor.
All right, so let's just assume it's going to go on for the next month.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item?
Okay, we're at the end of resolutions. Now we're into discussion items. 12A, discussion regarding city properties.
Okay.
Mayor?
Please go ahead,
Thank you.
sir.
I'm going to try to narrow the focus so that we don't get lost in all of the potential possibilities of this space. So what we're talking about is the Tony Roma's space. We just recently, within the next week, our lease will have ended with the current company that's there. So what I'm asking, we are limited by space in the building department. I'm asking for direction on the possibility of utilizing that space as the building department, which would involve you directing me to hire an architect to take a look at the space, determine the best use of the space, and bring that back to you for approval. Or if you'd like the property to be used for some other purpose, including a restaurant, we have also been approached for a number of our city properties about the potential of leasing the space. So I'm looking for direction from you as a group as to the next step for that property.
Okay,
Leasing for
so,
what purpose?
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Leasing for what purpose?
There's been a number of different requests for leasing, everything from religious services to potential office space.
Commissioner Stuyvesant? What is your direction for the
We
manager?
voted on this already to make it a restaurant, so I don't know what is coming back to us. So my direction is to make what we voted before, a restaurant.
I'm looking for it to go out to bid for a restaurant.
Commissioner Lama?
I'm trying to recall what we voted on. I mean, I think it was to go, I mean, we already put out the bid for a restaurant, right?
Let me
Then
just
that-
interrupt you for
yeah.
a minute. Would you be able to, City Clerk, pull that up for us so that we are stating the correct? I know that was from a year ago, I believe.
Just give me a few minutes, Mayor. I'll try to.
December or November, maybe.
I think, if I may.
Yes,
Mayor?
please, go ahead.
The last direction was we did put it out to bid for a restaurant. We received 2 bids that were viable, and at the end of the day, during our review, we determined that those were not viable options for the city. So therefore, those bids were rejected. And at that time, then we got approached about the potential of using it as a temporary space for lease, which we did. Fast forward to now, we are at the term where that lease has expired.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember we liked that option because we didn't,
So
It didn't
that's what we voted
require-
on, right? Then
Yeah.
we,
but
did
it
we
didn't
vote to make?
require any
Just one at a time,
improvement.
please.
We liked it because it didn't require us to put out any money improving the facility. They were willing to come in and then just use this an otherwise unrentable space, right? This
Correct.
is what we did.
The
Yeah.
use of the space was as is, and we also included paying our taxes
And they
on
paid
the
our
space.
taxes. And they've complied.
They
right?
have complied,
Okay.
yes.
Commissioner Lama?
So now basically we need to vote again on what,
Well, I don't think
We
that
wanna
this,
do with
we're not voting. I think that the manager's
It's a
asking for
discussion.
direction.
direction, yeah.
Direction.
Okay.
And if we did vote on, or if this body, rather, City Attorney, if this body voted for that, how does that work procedurally?
My understanding is that you voted to put out a bid, which you did, and that process has terminated. So
I
there's
understand.
nothing preventing you from reconsidering the use of the property or following the manager's.
No,
But
think that's
I do have a
recommendation.
question.
Wait, just one at a time, please. Commissioner Stuyvesant, go ahead.
But when it was, when the 2 bids came and they were not sufficient or whatever, I believe we said that we would bring it 6 months later, another bid.
Right.
So that's the part
All right, so
that
I think
would
that's
like more
I-
clarification.
Okay,
got
so,
the new
all right,
people.
so I think that we need to understand the history on this so that we can
Yes.
probably discuss it.
But at least-
I want to mention, though, that I had asked, and I don't know if there was an opportunity to do this, because I've made it, I think, clear that I'm very anti-consultants and bringing people in. So if there was an opportunity to have our city engineer go in and just look at the viability, just to get a sense, if that was possible, that would be very helpful to get a full picture, because for me personally, I've been approached by the same, many people asking to rent that space or any space. But on the same token, I know that we've had discussion items about the building department growing. Commissioner Stuyvesant, I think it was your discussion item. So I think we need a recommendation as well. So if you're saying that the building department needs more space, if it was not to go into Tony Roma's, where would it go?
We can look at other options, but my question is, now that this lease has ended, I'm really looking for direction on that so we can get that moving forward.
If
for
I-
the
if
Tony
I
Roma
may.
Yeah, go
space.
ahead, Commissioner Spire.
To the city manager, if you could explain, I know that you're asking for direction, whether you can go there, but can you explain why that's the better choice than other places, or what are the circumstances that why is this needed? Can you give us some detail about that?
From the building department perspective,
Why
I
are
think,
you,
what you mean-
you're basically asking us to, it sounds to me like you want to put the building department in Tony Roma's. That to you, it seems to be the better course of action. Can you explain why you think that? What's
have-
the need that we're not meeting in our current space?
The need right now is we have multiple people and staff in a constricted area in the building department. If you've ever been there, we are extremely limited. So we're trying to grow our electronic plan review and incorporate some new technologies. And it's a matter of the space becoming available that was the genesis for the question of what we want to do with that space. So we have building department funds that we can use to renovate the space and create some new office space and area for the building department. So that essentially would be the building department if this is your direction.
Is the building department in need of more staff and therefore more space, or are we keeping the same staff?
We have
What are we looking
projected in this budget, based on the commissioner's request, that we expand our buildings divisions and inspection staff to speak to the needs of the older or aging buildings within the city. So we are projecting on adding 4 members of the building department. Now, the difference with the building department is those funds are restricted, so we do have money available from the building department funds that would not affect your budget.
Commissioner Lama?
Yeah, I mean, all along, I've been, I favor using that as office space. So I understand that we need revenue, but, if we rented that out before, it didn't go well. We've rented out Navarro. We've had issues with that, with payment, collections, et cetera. And,
Poor management.
well, regardless, it's not this body's fault, but I think the point I'm trying to make without pointing fingers is that we're not landlords. We could be landlords, but I mean we have an immediate need right now for more office space, and we own that building. So the most logical and common sense step for me would be to utilize that office space for our employees.
Okay, so we've talked about this yesterday as well, and the question that came up, I don't remember if I said it yesterday, was during our agenda review, is how can we potentially have both? It's a large space, and I know that if we turn it into or build it up as a building department using those funds that are restricted, if we wanted to ever make it a restaurant or anything else, we would have to essentially buy it back from ourselves. So can you explain to me what the potential is? And that's why I know you want direction, but I want both.
So essentially, if we build out the space, we could create a carve-out for a smaller cafeteria or some type of space that could be potentially leased, if that's your direction. But we need to do some sort of an assessment of the space to determine the best use of it.
Can we do an assessment without hiring an architect, an initial assessment?
Yes, we can have our city engineer go in and do an initial assessment with the building department.
Okay, because I have not seen that space since it was Tony Romo, so I don't even know what's inside there right now. I would like to hear from our engineer and understand what exactly is the potential for that space before we move forward.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, I believe the last thing we need is another coffee house. But in that regard, we were talking about the visitor center on the ground floor of City Hall to move the visitor center out, and that would give us additional space for maybe a copy center or for the building department to use that space. And then we could move ahead. I don't believe that any city properties, city-owned properties, should be, we should continue to rent them for other usage. The city needs high-end restaurants under the right management. We could have that be profitable. And I believe we just need to put it out for bid as we had proposed in August and see what occurs.
Go ahead.
And additionally, here in the first floor, we have also the multipurpose room That room is big enough for more than 4 people. So we can use that room. If we are so desperate for a space in the 2nd or the 3rd floor, we can use that space, and it's ready right now to make the divisions necessary and to move whoever we need to move downstairs. And we can go to our original plan, how we voted, to put it out for bid and to make it a restaurant.
Okay.
If
Please,
I may,
go ahead.
just on that topic, that is the only room we have currently for training, for staff training, for police training. It is the only space in the whole city that we can use for that.
Okay.
Well, we can use the 4th floor.
Not the type of training that they do, no, and not the type of training even what we just had.
Gateway,
this week.
Gateway as well. Yeah, it's inconvenient because we have to drive half a mile, but Gateway, we can do it. In Gateway, we have a big room and a smaller one as well, plus the little one for the Zumba gyms, etc. So we have plenty of space, and what we said before is a very expensive park that we have in there, so maybe we can use it for training. And here we can have an office building, and we don't need a multi-purpose room.
Commissioner Viscara?
So thank you for the detail. I have always favored keeping that building an income-generating building. I don't particularly care whether it's a restaurant or not a restaurant, but it is a property that can generate income for us. And what I didn't understand until recently is that the building department is actually uniquely positioned to be because their funds are how they're structured, that they would be essentially paying rent to us. So I feel that that's like a happy medium. And if we can keep, I remember part of the original conversation was like a little Cuban coffee window, which I would also favor. So I think as long as it's part of our broader space assessment conversation, right? Like if the police department conversation had gone differently, we could plan ahead, and knowing that the police department will be moving or whatever, we would have that to think about. But in the absence of that right now, and you have an immediate need, I always like the idea of keeping it as a campus also. So I feel that this is a happy medium. If you feel that's the best place to put it, to grow the building department, which is very busy, and it can be like a hybrid situation for us, I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Lama?
I have a question. So we charge rent to the building department. Will it be market rate? They get a discount? I'm just
No.
trying to assess.
It's not market rate. Under 553.80, we can use funds from the building fees, but they have to be, you can't make a profit off of it. So you'd have to quantify the area you're using and come up with a formula similar to what you do to allocate space here at City Hall and come up with a reasonable figure to charge as rent.
Reasonable figure based on what? On that formula?
Correct. So between utilities, the cost of actually supporting building services within that building, whatever you can attach that's reasonable with regards to them being housed there and working there and doing what they do under the statute, you can charge, you can add in your rent.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to know if we do charge, if the building department moves in there, what the rent rate will be versus a restaurant, let's say. Just interesting to compare those numbers. Yeah.
I think it's going to be much less.
Yeah, but it'll be good to.
No,
to
no,
compare, just out of curiosity.
And look, I was very supportive of it being a restaurant. I wanted it to be a restaurant. I support revenue generating properties that the city owns. However, on the other hand, what I was hearing from a lot of residents is that they're very frustrated about the permit process. They're very frustrated with our building department. So that's why I'm asking. I know that this is sort of split in middle now, so I don't know if you're getting the answer that you wanted, but I just need more information because I I want to know if there's a possibility to not just have a cafe, but actually, it's a large space, and I know that some of the restaurants weren't even willing to bid because the space was too big for them. So that's why I'm asking for more information from our engineer.
Okay. And,
Please, go ahead.
okay. And Alan, last evening, we spoke about a discussion regarding the Alamo property, which I don't want to go into fully, but you were going to look into the options for that as well.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. So let's leave it at that, and let's see what we come up with.
All right, so do you have what you need? Yes?
I think so. You want me to you want me to gather some more information on the use of the building department space and the potential for rent in terms of how much that would be, and bring that back to you.
And if I may, at the same time, please consider the multipurpose room to move their IT, media, or whoever, so we can give the whole third floor for the building department. So maybe they don't need to move, and we can keep them in here and use that space right now that is underutilized and very expensive as well for another department. Okay, so we can have that direction as well.
Okay. Next item, 12B?
Well,
It's all you?
so I don't believe we're finished with city properties, because I would like to speak about the spot.
Okay, this was the discussion item by the city manager, so it was his item.
I just need a direction on the property next door, but
Okay.
whatever you all decide.
So am I able to ask questions regarding the spot and have a discussion?
It's up
It's
to the...
it's a city property.
We can, but I don't know if the manager was prepared to discuss that right now, so we can speak about it probably when we have our next budget meeting.
Well, it's only a matter of future usage, and it's sitting idle right now. It has issues, and, that's also a line item that has a proposed amount to go into it, and I think we should discuss whether it's worthwhile putting any other money into it.
No, but if you remember yesterday, we talked about the fact that it's included in the Parks Master Plan, and so we're waiting, we're not going to spend any money and put any money into it until we get the
Right.
Parks Master Plan.
Okay, so we'll wait till then.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, your item is next.
Yes. So we have within the city two neighborhoods that are ungated and unsecure, and we've had issues with vendors coming and knocking on doors. We had a couple of instances where I had myself, a Ukrainian person, coming to knock on my door. He was looking for donations. I directed him to Rabbi Kaller for immigration assistance, but he continued knocking on doors. The next day, we had a couple of gentlemen with black T-shirts with 407 Restoration on their shirts, knocking on doors, asking residents to allow them in their houses to do assessments for any past storm damage. This is something that's a serious issue. If you have an older person who's not aware, they could accidentally let someone in and have a issue that we don't want to deal with. So in that regard, the state has a statute causing people that are looking to solicit to submit for a background check, for fingerprints, to have ID around their necks, and to submit for a license for solicitation. That's the state statute. The the village of Palmetto Bay has an ordinance which has been in effect since 2013, which I would like for our city to adopt with a couple of additional provisions to include from the state statute the requirement for neck ID and fingerprinting as well. And I believe that would give our
Atlantic Isle, as well as Golden Shores residents, that sense of security. There's also a penalty provision in the Palmetto Bay ordinance for a $250 fine. That could, depending upon the situation, could be defrayed as a warning for a first-time offender, but still it's on the books. There's a provision for the need for the homeowner to have a sign outside the residence for no solicitations, but I believe that also would not be necessary as long as we're adding the other state provisions for ID and fingerprinting and a license. So in that regard, every commissioner has the Palmetto Bay Ordinance and the state statute, and I would like to direct the city attorney to revise the Palmetto Bay Ordinance to add the state provisions for around the neck ID, picture ID, as well as fingerprinting, and the need for a license, and to then be able to adopt next month this ordinance.
Okay. Well, I think that we all are very concerned with safety, so I personally haven't had anyone knock on my door yet, but...
That's because we stopped them before they got to you.
Thank you, then. I wanted to hear from when we were having the agenda review, because there was no backups. I didn't exactly know. I didn't see this ordinance that you have in front of you. So
I have a copy for you.
No, I know. I didn't see it prior to this meeting. So if the city attorney could briefly speak on this and the viability of it and what it would mean.
Sure. As the Vice Mayor correctly stated, there's an existing Florida statute regulating home solicitation sales under 501022. Palmetto Bay had earlier on tried a more onerous ordinance, which was struck down, but that was a complete ban, which was unconstitutional. Subsequently, they passed an ordinance providing the ability for homeowners to place signs on their property indicating that no solicitation, no peddlers, so on and so forth. And that is essentially the regulation that if someone violates a homeowner's instruction for no solicitation, then there's a penalty attendant to that. And that's the limitation of their particular ordinance. With regards to adding what the state already has, it's certainly permissible. As long as we don't or conflict with state statute, we can add whatever provisions the state statute also provides. Currently, it's kind of unusual, but currently for application, a person that wants to do home sales in this regard has to go to the clerk of the court so they have to go down to Miami-Dade County clerk of the court and actually apply for a permit, go through the fingerprinting process, and so on and so forth. So we can replicate that here. We certainly can do that because that does not conflict with Florida state statute. I would just have to work with the city manager to see what sort of implementation measures we would need as to who would be processing the intake and so on and so forth.
Yes. And I have one question. We need to make some provision regarding campaigning, political campaigning.
That makes it a lot more complicated. You get into First Amendment issues here. We can look into that, but some cities have tried to do that, and it's very difficult in the First Amendment.
No, to allow for political campaigning.
Well, they are allowed currently, my understanding is.
Yeah.
But we can certainly look into that to see if there's anything else that we can add that can bolster.
Well, if we're going with the ordinance, we might need to make an allowance for that in the ordinance.
So,
we can look into that.
Okay.
what do the rest of the commission
have a
Please,
question?
go ahead.
Okay, this is for the city attorney. So just so that I understand, under current state law and whatever county, whatever we have going on right now, what's already existing, if Girl Scout troop 1234 wants to go to Atlantic Island, sell cookies door to door, what would they have to do? Go and get fingerprinted down, or whoever the adult is with them, and What are you, and we know people don't do it, but what are they supposed to do? The Girl Scouts want to sell cookies.
Well, we would have to follow, again, state law, and I don't know particularly about the Girl Scouts, but there are exemptions under state law.
Give me a different example that would, that you're more
Well, for
comfortable
example,
with.
the exemptions for, or there's an exemption for anyone, solicitors, salespersons, or agents making calls or soliciting orders on behalf of a religious, charitable, scientific, educational, or veterans institution or
exempt.
organization. They're allowed to do that without a permit. So
So they would
we'd
be
have to
exempt.
comply with that. We couldn't make it more restrictive in
Okay.
that regard.
So, but-
So the Girl Scouts would probably
Okay,
fall under that.
so we'll go with the restoration
Right.
company, okay?
Right.
So they
They-
decide they want to go and introduce themselves to the neighborhood because we see there's a lot of possible work here, and we want to go and give you our business card and encourage you to use our services.
Right. So
What
they-
is that company supposed to do under current law?
Under the current law, they have to go to the clerk of the court, apply for a permit. I think it's like $85. They have to go through the process, the fingerprinting. They have to have the proper licensing displaying and so on and so forth. They have to file affidavits, so on and so forth, and obtain a permit from the clerk of the court. And at that point, they can operate within the city, or within the county, essentially.
Okay, I was going to ask you, is that city-specific or county-specific? County, okay. And with the ordinance that I guess we'll be discussing, what would be different? We would also want them to register. I mean, I really don't want to add fingerprinting and badge making to the city clerk's office, but maybe they can
That's
bring us.
not the city clerk.
Or
It's not the
anybody,
city-
but maybe they can.
already-
Wait,
but
just
hold
one
on,
at a time,
please.
please.
Maybe they could bring us, maybe they could just register with whatever they have from the county, so we know they're here. And then also, we're talking about adding the no soliciting sign and making that, if you can put a little sign on your yard, and then they come anyway, and even if it's the Girl Scouts, do they have to listen to the no soliciting sign?
But that's already in.
That's how you would draft your ordinance. So technically, yes. If you don't want any interaction with anyone.
So the Girl Scouts are not exempt from,
Correct.
better know how to read.
The way that the Palmetto Bay ordinance is, well, they have to be supervised by adults, obviously.
course.
So, but under the Palmetto Bay ordinance, no one would be permitted at that point based on the sign that you place. And that would only be at the election of the homeowner, obviously. If
Right.
you don't have a sign, they could. But otherwise, right, the process would be replicated here. You can certainly, and still be in compliance with state statute, not be in conflict with it, if you want to do a registry where once they go to the clerk of the court, get all that information, if they have to go the extra step to actually submit that to us before they do, you could certainly do that and not be in conflict with state law.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand where we're going without, I don't want to be fingerprinting people. I
Well-
think that's but I'll listen to see what you're hoping to accomplish, because I'm not clear on what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yes, okay. So residents that live in high-rises that have security at their first floor do not deal with this issue as much as private homes in Golden Shores and Atlantic Isle. That is basically where this pertains. I mean, you could have people that come into your building and slip past security, and then, you could have also a delicate issue with an older person opening a door to someone and, whatever,
Well,
right?
Wait,
Buying
one at
a
a time.
spiel, and then they're in trouble. So it is pertinent to everyone, but the private homes in the ungated areas in particular we have this need.
I'm not understanding, like, the what are you asking the city to do?
I'm not
that
asking the
is
city to do anything.
In addition to what already exists in state law?
The city does not have to do anything. This does not require the city to do anything.
What are you
Only the
asking us
police
to do?
to accept an ordinance that the city attorney will draft in accordance with the Palmetto Bay existing ordinance from 2013, with adding the provision for around the neck ID, so you know who it is that's at your door, and the requirement that they are fingerprinted, which is it's through the state that the fingerprinting is done.
I think it's somewhere else.
It is the
read.
clerk of court.
Yeah.
Commissioner
Okay.
Sevison, you had something you wanted to say?
So, but it has nothing to do with the city, except the city.
Wait, one at a time, one at a time.
Okay, where anybody live is their choice. So to have Homeland Security is your choice. It's like if you want to live in a gated community, then you have to pay HOA, condo fees, you name it. That doesn't come for free, and the city is not paying for it. Second, as of right now,
There is no
wait.
charge to the city.
as of right now, the statute covers your neighborhood. So the way it goes right now, if somebody was knocking on your door, you call the police. If we put this ordinance, yes or no, it's going to say the same procedure. You have to call the
It's
police.
not.
You cannot call compliance.
But there's no
Okay,
penalty
okay.
in the state statute.
Then, so again, it is a little bit like we were talking before, and it reminds me of the whistleblower situation. Like we are covered already by the county and the state, and we want to bring an extra step, more work to our city clerk, and we are
is-
going to accomplish the same thing. So more government, more bureaucracy, more
You're
staff.
under a misconception. This does not go through the city clerk.
Wait.
Well, if it's
Well,
our ordinance,
It has to go through, I mean, the city, if it's our ordinance, we're the only ones that can enforce our ordinance.
Well,
So-
enforcing it as far as the police department.
Well, correct, but if there's a so if you're going to assess a fine, you're going to have a procedure in place and a process in place in order to collect the fine and to have an appellate process if someone wants to challenge the fine.
We
So
have
there
that
is-
already.
No, you can't
We
go through
have-
code enforcement. You won't be able to go through code enforcement.
then you have to
You'd have
general
to-
magistrate, etc. So it is just more government, more. So we are talking about budget and trying to restrict our expenses. This is going to bring extra expense.
Well, here's the thing. I'm speaking with someone that lives in a gated community. And so really, I need to get
choice.
I understand that. But the thing is, we have residents that live in ungated communities that
So,
the security issue is still the security issue.
all right, let's just, so I can appreciate what you mean, and I can see both sides. However, I agree with Commissioner Sevison. I think that adding more regulation, more bureaucracy, more government is something that doesn't seem to me to be a problem.
It's not
I
a
think
problem because it didn't reach
no, but
your
wait a
house.
sec. Let me finish, please. I'd like to encourage someone that wants to sell, some sort of, starting a small business, to be able to try and get additional business. And if I don't want anyone on my property, I have a very large German Shepherd that lets you know you cannot get near me. You
They're
could put
already
a
at
no
your door.
trespassing sign. There are remedies in place already, and you could certainly call the police. I think our police has made it very clear that you don't have to feel like you're in direct danger. Always call them, even if you see someone that's suspicious.
Okay.
Creating an additional layer isn't going to stop anyone that's trying to do something bad. They'll just figure out a way to get around it. And I'm against adding regulation to something that.
There's already an ordinance that's been in effect since 2013. There's been no negative effect.
I understand where you're coming from. I'm just not supportive of this.
So, thinking about this, I mean, when let's say someone that has bad intentions, right, wants to start knocking on doors and disguising themselves or presenting themselves as a salesperson, right? We have the state law, right, that already covers us, right?
Correct. Well, the state law yes. I mean, that if you're talking about someone that's actually has some nefarious intent to try to commit fraud or actually do something to the property or you have a whole slew of laws that are being violated. This particular law deals specifically with the failure to register as you have this would address the legitimate or a home salesperson that failed to register and therefore you forgot to get your license, you failed to get your license, and you could suffer some consequences for that. But if you're talking about someone that's either going to be endangering you or trying to commit fraud on you, then again, there's a variety of other criminal statutes that would be, again, that becomes a criminal matter that would be addressed by state law.
Vice Mayor, from what I gather, the intent of what you're proposing is to stop these people that have bad intentions, correct? Or to really
to have
confirm.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Or to confirm that the person knocking on your door is indeed a registered salesperson selling you, I don't know, AC filters, whatever
Well,
it is.
to have the ability to not be bothered at your residence, and anyone should have that right to be able to
I
put
agree
a no
with you. Yeah.
solicitation sign,
Yeah.
and for people to recognize that these people do not want knocks on their door,
Okay.
or do not want to be bothered, and that's the purpose of this ordinance.
But there's already a law, right? If your
That
sign.
law has no teeth.
Right, the state law, so what the Vice Mayor is referring to is the Palmetto Bay ordinance that deals with the sign. So if you want to put a sign in front of your house that says no solicitors, then if you violate that, then there's a fine of $250. So that's the only thing the Palmetto Bay ordinance does.
Okay.
It's just, it allows you, but
It
currently, I
allows
mean,
the
right.
city to impose a fine.
Correct, but again, the city has to enforce that, and the city has to go through that process.
Correct.
It's just like right now, if you have a no trespassing sign, and somebody's trespassing on your property, and they trespass anyway, you have recourse with police and other variety of things that you can do. If someone's trespassing on your property, you can prevent them from doing that. It's the same type of thing, except that here, it would be specifically addressing solicitors and peddlers and requiring them and giving them this penalty.
And you have the
if they
ability to give a
fail
warning.
Okay.
That would be that's the Palmetto Bay ordinance.
Can homeowners put up a no soliciting sign anyway? I mean, I know we have sign ordinance, so are homeowners allowed to put a no soliciting sign in front of their
I
lawns?
believe they can. I don't think you can prevent that. Again, there wouldn't necessarily be a penalty attended to that. I mean,
No, I know,
right.
independent of that. I
Yes.
mean,
The First Amendment, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And
But we
also,
have
It
a sign,
can't
we have
be-
sign ordinance.
It can't be
so
the size of your house
Yeah.
and, right by the sidewalk.
and
That's-
also
there's some restrictions.
you are allowed to put a fence in your property as well.
So technically, let's say we don't put a no soliciting sign, but technically homeowners could put a no trespassing sign, and that will be tied to a penalty.
It can, but again, you have to call the police. The police would have, the person would still have to be there. Part of the challenge in any of these is enforcement, right? The law enforcement has to witness this. They have to, so you're assuming the person's still going to be there, which sometimes does occur.
Yeah.
But by the time you have a response from police, so yes, you can do that for trespassing. Here, if you have a no solicitation sign, someone hopefully will respect that and not come knock at your door. But if they do, there's no penalty for that per se. The Palmetto Bay ordinance just attaches a penalty if you do that. Again, assuming you can catch the person in the act and have somebody actually from law enforcement witness
It's
it.
more,
Yeah,
it's
but-
more
Go ahead.
not to collect a fine, but to have people on notice that there's an ordinance so that you limit the solicitors.
Okay.
But a no soliciting sign, I mean, maybe I'm not understanding this, what the sign would look like, but if I see a no soliciting sign, I don't assume there's an ordinance behind it, or there is or there isn't. It's like a command, right? Like, don't knock on my door, don't bother me. If I'm, I don't know. I mean, I don't think about this very much, but I'm trying to understand what you're trying to address. And
Well, two of my neighbors, before we stopped them, and they didn't have the ability to get to the mayor's house, they knocked on two doors. One is a widowed woman, UD, everyone knows UD, Marinoff. And then also her next door neighbor, two doors down. He actually called me to say someone's knocking on his door, they want to come in. They're asking him in a persistent manner to come in and be able to assess any previous storm damage that he's had. A weaker person maybe would have let him in. let them in. And who knows, what their intent was.
But I don't think that wearing a badge or registering really addresses what you're saying. This is where a case of someone trying to enter your home, this is a police matter.
Well, and they were called. The police were called because
Right.
I was notified and I called the police.
So there is a remedy in place for something like that.
Not everyone is going to call me at that moment.
No, I'm not suggesting that people need to call you personally. And what I'm saying is that if someone is trying to enter your home, most people know to call the police. So if someone is trying to sell you something, them having a badge or not having a badge,
Well, the idea is to pass this ordinance and then make the residents aware that there is now an ordinance to, that they're able to prevent people from soliciting them.
I think most people know their rights and they know that people don't have a right to knock on their doors if they don't want them to. And if they call the police one
Right
time.
now, you can knock on anyone's door and we get people all the time knocking on doors for coconuts and whatever.
So I have a question. What would be the difference between a no trespassing sign and no
There is no
soliciting
difference.
sign if we do pass this ordinance?
You can,
We still have to call the police, correct? I mean, we
If the
still have
person
to, it's the
refuses to-
same
if-
process, correct?
Right, if the person
Yeah.
refuses to leave, you're going to have to call the
The
police
same as no
regardless of what the sign.
trespassing. It's the same process, right? I mean, they'll have to call the police. They'll still have to be on the premises if if the police is going to catch them, right? So
the ordinance allows for no
Yeah,
trespassing
I-
as well.
I understand.
Do you have
yeah.
it?
I'll read it. Yeah, I got it. I mean, I'd like to read this ordinance and take a better look at this, and then
If you
I
like,
could
we can
probably-
defer it.
Well, it's a
until
discussion
you-
item. We could
Yeah.
continue perhaps in the next
Yes,
commission
I'd like,
meeting. Yeah, but I'd
for
like
everyone to
study
have
this a
full
little bit more,
information
yeah.
before we,
Yeah.
make an unreasonable decision.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions of the Vice Mayor? All right.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So next item, 12C. Commissioner Stives?
12C, it was
I'd
Commissioner
just like
Stuyvesant,
to
and I
ask a
apologize, I
question.
didn't mention it at the beginning during the order of business. It was requested to be deferred.
12C is out?
Yes.
Okay. So regarding the Palmetto, the non-solicitation matter, that can be brought up next month for an ordinance, since we've already discussed it?
No, I'm not supportive of that. I think.
Well, is anyone else supportive of it?
Listen, I need to read this because I
Yes.
received it, at the start of
Correct.
this
But also,
of this meeting, and
read the state statute as well, because
yeah, I
we're
need
looking
to
for a
read all of
combination.
that to give you,
Yes.
I mean, I need to study it, and you could bring it up as a discussion item next month too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're 12E? The D, oh,
So
D, sorry.
D as in
yes.
David.
Go ahead.
This is about ordinance 10-1, amendments to the budget. I requested for our city attorney to give me a little bit of the background and the historic about this ordinance, because if I can read it or paraphrase it, but I'm going to read it. So it says, minor amendments, transfer between line items or departments accounts within department budget, or decreases in line items or department accounts not amounting to more than 20% of the total budget of each department may be made by the city manager by written statement describing the transfer and the reasons therefore. A copy of such statement shall be filed with the city clerk and delivered to the mayor and each of the city commissioners. A copy shall also be posted at a conspicuous place in City Hall. The transfer shall become effective 14 days after posting unless the mayor or any member of the commission notifies the city manager that he or she wishes the transfer to be placed upon the agenda of the next commission meeting. Lower it says about appropriation for expenditure within a fund may be decreased or increased by resolution, provided that the total of appropriation of the fund is not changed. Basically, what it says is that city management has the opportunity or the power to make amendments, to change from one item to another up to 20% of the budget of that department. So Alan, I just wanted to a little historical and also to know, because that was my request, if other municipalities had the same or same amount of percentage or a little bit more information about it.
With regards to, well, the section itself was initially enacted in 2010 and then amended in 2012. Susan, I hate to put you on the spot, but were we able to get a copy of those ordinances? So we still, regardless, it either was enacted and we'd also maybe try to get the minutes to see if there was any discussion on it, but the 20% would have been added, obviously, either in 2010 or 2012. As for other jurisdictions, I mean, I've seen it, minor transfers between line items typically don't require a full amendment and can be done administratively. I don't know about the 20%, but certainly the second provision of 10.1 with regards to resolutions, not new appropriations, obviously new appropriations have to go through the ordinance process, but the provisions there are not unusual that I've seen, but again, that's not necessarily looking at every jurisdiction in Florida.
Okay, now that we have more clarification, can we have the research done and bring the discussion item again for August?
Right, and
we can find the resolution, and also we can compare to other municipalities. And it has nothing to do against current management, okay? It's just that I want to know what is the procedure. I think 20% is a very large percentage. Out of a $5 million department, that is basically $1 million that it can be moved around. And I don't feel comfortable. And right now, it caught my attention because we're working in the budget. So if we can have a little bit more of clarification and whatever you guys think.
I think that the way that we're discussing items may be a little bit backwards, because I think that Commissioner Stuyvesant could ask you for that without us asking, agreeing to it. It's research that she has the right to ask you.
Correct, and that request was made on Wednesday, I think.
Right.
Right.
So
we can
yeah.
we can certainly provide you with that information, separately.
Right, so that we would
Yeah.
have that in advance. So I don't think anyone, it doesn't matter if we were against it. You have the right to ask for it. So, okay, 12E.
And Mayor, if I just may clarify that currently and within the past for as long as I can remember, these have all been coming to you as a budget amendment. So even though we have the option to do it that way, we have not traditionally done it that way.
All right, thank you for that. 12E.
12E is a donation to Social Citizens of Southeast Florida.
Okay, so I think we all received the letter about the donation for the social citizens. I'm assuming that we all received the same letter. Okay. So I just wanted to bring as a consideration. I do believe that they do an amazing good job getting our seniors together, and it's a very small amount of money considering the big amount of money that we've been discussing in the past few days. Historically and traditionally, we've been doing it. So I wanted to bring it as a resolution, but apparently it has to be a discussion item first. So
I have a question first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Alan, we had spoken about whether someone who's a member of this group could be involved in the discussion.
Yes, and I sent I don't know if you saw it. I sent an email earlier. So you have two regulations that you need to look at. One is the Miami-Dade Ethics Code, and then you also have a provision in your code. And the language in the Miami-Dade Code was a little ambiguous, so we contacted the executive director of the Ethics Commission just to confer and make sure we were all on the same page, and we were. So based on the facts that I've heard with regards to membership of this organization, any sort of benefit, if any at all, would be incidental or minor. So there wouldn't be a direct conflict of interest with regards to the Miami-Dade ordinance. With regards to the city ordinance, it really becomes down to a personal judgment as to whether it would create some sort of reasonable impression that somehow there is a conflict of interest, and that's a personal decision by the elected officials. If they proceed forward and believe there isn't, then it's fine. So there's no direct conflict of the ethics, conflict of interest ordinance.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that for any future issues.
Mhm.
Commissioner Lano?
Yeah, I have a question. How is this different from when I was proposing a donation of $750 to the PTSA for Alonzo Tracy Morning High School?
My understanding was at the time that there was either you or someone you were related to, and our
My
office
wife
rendered
was a
that
member of that PTSA.
of the board, correct?
Yes.
Right. So that
I
was the
believe
distinction, I believe, at the time
is the
was
board-
the board membership.
board membership.
That gives you
Okay.
that technically being on a board makes you an officer, and the ordinance, the Miami-Dade ordinance specifically refers to officers. So that our counsel would always be, if you were at that level, we would always counsel you to recuse yourself, just in an abundance of caution. As a member here, from my understanding of the organization, you sort of pay into it, but you don't necessarily have to do anything. It's just basically a contribution.
Okay, all right.
So what does everyone?
I mean, yeah, we've always donated every year. Basically, we donate to this organization. I'm just trying to understand in my head, what's the criteria for donations? I brought up $750 for the media center at ATM, something that was going for the benefit of the students, and it did not pass. So obviously, what we donate needs to be for the public benefit. I believe I made a case that was for the public benefit. Not to, I just need to bring it up, Dennis, nothing against you. I'm in favor, but I think we need to be congruent with our criteria, okay? And you need to think hard about what course of action we're going to take, and we need to be consistent with our donations. And that's all I'm going to say.
Commissioner Viscar?
Thank you. To your point, Commissioner Lama, I also had a conversation with the city attorney earlier about the board member versus just being a member, and that's what ended up eliminating enough people up here that we couldn't even have a conversation about it. My reason for voting down the PTA was because we had already given a substantial donation in Stop the Bleed Kit. And I thought that, in terms of donations to the schools, we had done our part. With regards to this ask, I was kind of on the fence about it last year. I think that the social seniors, I think, had a different name before.
Social citizens.
Okay, so it used to be some.
It used to be seniors.
Thank you.
But it also used to be of Sunny Isles, and now it's Southeast Florida.
Okay, so whatever its evolution has been. There was a need for that when it started. We didn't have good senior programs. They were sharing the space in Pelican with the children. It was, we hadn't evolved as a city to the point where we were providing adequate senior programming or social programming. And for that reason, I was kind of on the fence about it last year, but, we went ahead with it. But I think now, and even last year, we have robust senior programming. We have a facility. And if we're going to be throwing another $10,000 or $15,000 to our seniors, I'd rather do it through our social programming. I don't think it's meeting the need. I think we're now meeting that need. So I would be a no on that.
Vice Mayor?
Dennis, would you be able to come up?
No, we're not. No,
Well,
no.
in order for me
This is a discussion item. It's not a presentation.
Okay, so we're not making a decision tonight?
Well, no, we're not, because we're not voting. This is
We're not
just to
voting.
give the commissioner a sense of what we'd like to
Okay.
do going forward, because it needs to be a resolution to vote on it.
Okay, so I'll just.
And at that point, people can come and speak.
So, yes, Okay, so I just want to put it out there that I had spoken with Dennis in order to logically be able to make some type of donation. And I had asked him what the percentage of his membership is Sunny Isles Beach residents. And the answer was, I believe, 2/3. Okay. So in that regard, I asked what other cities do the members come from? And he had said North Miami Beach and Aventura. So I had, just in order to offer some information to Dennis in order to be helpful, I recommended that he go to the other cities and try to get some type of funding, even if it was $200 or $300, so that he could show the city that the outside members have some type of contribution from their residential cities. I can't ask him a question, so I don't know if he's done that or not, or took my advice, but I would like to see some amount of funding from the other cities that Sunny Isles doesn't bear the complete brunt of the 100% membership.
Okay.
I think that's an honest, ask.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. In full transparency, I used to sit on the board and of the Social Citizens, and I am a member, and I'm very supportive of supporting them. But I agree with Commissioner Lama as well that we need to have a criteria, because we have a lot of civic organizations that are going to be requesting money. And during some of the discussions when we were talking with the individual meetings with the budget, I had said, is there a potential to create a process where an organization could register and request the money so that we can answer questions like what percentage of your membership is Sunny Isles Beach residents, sort of like a grant. Are you getting funding from someplace else? And accountability. And I understand and I know that you depend on this money, and I appreciate that, but at the same time, I think that it becomes more of it's too random. I think it needs to be a little bit stricter as far as how we choose to spend the money, or to donate the money, rather, not spend the money. And I do agree with you, Commissioner Vizcarra, that we do have abundant senior programming. This is, I think, a little bit different because it does include others from other municipalities in a different way. But maybe that needs to be part of the grant process. How are you what are your programs that are different from the programs that we provide? So I don't know how you feel about that, Commissioner Stein.
Maybe that should be the same for all the events and programs that we have. Because when we did our party, amazing party again, anybody could come. They could pay and they could enjoy it. So maybe if we take 3 minutes from the drone show, we have the $15,000 to give to our seniors. So I don't see how the percentage of wherever they're coming from, plus we don't need to do what other cities are doing. We don't do what other cities do. So if Aventura give or doesn't give money, it should not be stopping or encouraging us to give or not give money. Or North Miami, or if they have citizens, a senior from Hialeah, Kendall, or you name it. So historically, we've been supporting it. Right now, we are reinventing the wheel and bringing all kind of new events for our city because we want to be more think outside the box. We are bringing even bonfires as new events, but it is so hard, so harsh to give what we've been giving over the years. I just don't think what is the compromise here. I don't see it.
I'm not against donating to them. I just think that for them to fill out a grant form, if no one else fills it out, then there are other needs. I don't think that it's asking a lot to have them let us know what they're going to spend the money on.
I have no problem with any form that they need to. So this is a discussion item. So what is going to be the recommendation that we're going to be giving? So that they need to fill in sort of form, and then we can bring it back or move to give it. Our fiscal year is almost finished. So right now, if we don't give it before the end of the fiscal year, then now they have to wait until the next fiscal year, and they waste this year, fiscal year, of getting the money. They count off that money because we've been giving it over the years. So I didn't even think this was going to be such a hard discussion. I actually thought it was going to be one of the easy ones.
You just never know what you think is
What do
going to
other
be
cities
easy,
do?
and it
Susan,
turns
if I
out
may
not to
ask,
be.
how do other cities manage these sort of donations to civic organizations?
Some have grant programs, which is what we had discussed, was having a process with a grant program where it's open for a certain period of time. We announce that the grant period is open, we get applications, and there's a criteria. Alan, do you have other experience?
No, I mean, I've seen it done several ways, but the most efficient way I've seen has been where the U.S. policymakers set a criteria, whether it be all nonprofits or, set some criteria, and then you can have a process where they make application, you get more information, the information that you want, which you've already stated, and then figure out a vetting process, whether you personally want to, vet them all. Because my experience, when that came about, I think there were in excess of 150 applicants. So I don't know that you want to go through 150 applications. I don't know that you would get that here, but or if you want to review them yourselves or have a summary from the city manager. But that's a good process. Objectivity and is always the key. So that typically has worked. It's a good process that I've seen.
So to Commissioner Stuyvesant's point, if this was not added to an agenda for next meeting, is there still an opportunity for them to apply for a grant and receive it in this year?
Part of the budget proposal, I think if you saw in there, was because Commissioner Lama, I'm sorry, actually it was in those blue sheets. Commissioner Lama had asked about, discretionary fund or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our response to that was to establish a grant program, just kind of like we do with a scholarship program, so that there's an open period for applications, it's advertised, and everybody knows that that money is available. That was something that we had heard from more than one of you.
And what was the amount? The total
The total amount we put in the budget this year was $50,000.
Okay, so there is an opportunity then.
Yeah.
If you want that type of process, and it would be great to hear that now, we can work really quick to try to get something going that could be awarded by September, but we're talking about a lot of work in a short period of time.
But that's going to lead to a lot of competition as well, correct?
Not necessarily.
It very well may, or it may not. It
I know
depends on who
several-
wants to put forth the effort to actually fill it all out.
Like how many people apply for the scholarships?
Not enough.
Right. I think that when you
Well-
start having to show up and sit
Well-
all these hours and put in the effort, it becomes something very different.
I already know Rabbi Keller is interested, and he mentioned to me as
I don't think
well.
municipalities can donate
Well,
to religious.
No, we
Okay.
can't. Yeah.
Well,
I just wanted to comment something. When I said we need to have a criteria, I wasn't thinking of anything complicated. I was thinking of perhaps drafting a document where we would kind of know what the guidelines are and start, check marking different things. I don't see the difference between this donation and the donation that I had proposed for ATM. And I'm using this as an example, not just because it was mine, but I'm sure that we're perhaps going to run into situations that are similar. And I just want to know the thought process behind someone that would say yes to social citizens and no to ATM, when to me, it's the same thing. So I think we need to, put a document together where it is clear and we all stick to that, guide, because I think we need to be consistent and we need to be fair to everybody that comes to us and asks for a donation.
I know today,
I agree. Go ahead.
I know today that I received a request for the CAT program We have so many cats in the city that people feed, and also the volunteers that pick up the cats for assistance. They put out a lot of their own money in that regard, and there's been requests for reimbursement if the city is able to reimburse some of that expense. So, I think there are a lot of opportunities now, if we're going to go that route, that you're going to have a lot of people come out of the woodwork that didn't before, that we may be surprised. 50,000 may be a small amount.
And you all could choose to up that through your budget process or a budget amendment if you're finding that type of need that you want to fulfill in the community.
I think the CAP program is already budgeted for $24,000. Okay, so what do we need to do in order to get you to the next step so that we can allow for them to, whether it be a check sheet with check marks or something more complicated? What's the direction?
So it's not going to be like it used to be. Like we can bring us a resolution in the next meeting and vote yes or no. We are not doing it right now like that. So we're going to change as of right now how we've been doing it traditionally.
Well, discuss how we can do it more in line.
More
For what I'm
consistent
hearing
and
from
appropriate.
Commissioner Lama and what I'm agreeing with, and I think I'm hearing it from the Vice Mayor, is just to make it a process that's more consistent.
And I agree with that, and I like that, and I like process, and I like to be always, consistent, 100%. Right now, I don't think we have the time to create that process before the end of the fiscal year. So I want to consider the process and create the process and the list and the checklist or whatever. I just would like to, which is my discussion item right now, to move this donation forward.
Wait, let me just, when you say this fiscal year, you mean ending in September?
Correct.
Wasn't this already then approved in the last budget then?
There is donation money in the budget. We'd have to see how much is left because, some of it has been spent already, but we'd have to see what is left. But there is donation money in this budget.
But I thought that the Social Citizens got a donation included in the budget from last year.
As far as I know, not this in this fiscal year.
So this past fiscal year, this current or past fiscal year, which will soon be passed, they did not get a donation.
There was an allocation for funding that was not, it's at your discretion, you, the commission, because only the commission can authorize donations.
So when was the last time they received the $15,000? 21, 22?
Last fiscal, I think it was. It was last fiscal year. I remember passing $10,000.
Wait, let me just, wait, we can't go back and forth. Do you remember, it was 21, 22? I'm just saying the fiscal year, 21, 22. So 22, 23, they didn't.
The fiscal year that we are in right now, there has not been
Okay.
a check made.
Something.
Okay.
Because it has not been approved by commission.
Which is my point of bringing it right now.
Okay.
But just in all fairness, I did speak to Dennis last month for him to submit it to the commission last month. No, you're actually a month behind, I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's not go back and forth. Wait, stop. This is not, okay, thank you. How quickly can something be put together so that we
could get a very simple process ready for you to have ready to go in August.
So that they can get it?
So that there could be some type of process. And then if Commissioner
But
Lama would
could it
like
be
to get
put
the
as a
school back,
resolution
or
then?
does the process...
They would all,
have to
well,
vote on the process.
The process doesn't necessarily need to be by resolution. Obviously, your donations will continue to
Right.
be by resolutions.
No, I didn't mean voting on the process. I meant so that you figured out the process and then we can put it on as a resolution for next month.
We
Right,
would,
so-
we would ask for the process to be able to, let us develop it, get the word out, get the applications, review them, and have them ready for your September meeting. And at that point, you'll know how much money you have left in your donation budget, and you can choose to spend it how you wish.
Yes.
And I will request the process to be for the next fiscal year. And right now, to draft the resolution so they can get the money in the August meeting, like we traditionally been doing it. And then any changes that we're gonna be making, we are at the end of this fiscal year, so we can have it, and we can do it slowly, thinking what we're doing, not in a fast manner, for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
That's my request.
I just have one question. Sure. And since we're not taking answers from the director, I won't get that answer. But if the organization is looking to grow and they grow outside of Sunny Isles, are we still going to be funding the same amount for maybe an organization that's then 70% outside of Sunny Isles?
If I may, Mayor.
Please, go ahead.
Honestly, what Commissioner is saying, stuyvesant. I say it that way all the time, sorry, Fabiola. Honestly, to have something, to throw something together and turn it around that quickly is not easy. And it would be better for next fiscal year, and then you have, a 2 or 3 month open period. And so for this year, we'll let you know how much is left. You talk to whatever organizations, you bring forward your resolutions, and then and at that time, Commissioner Joseph, Vice Mayor Joseph, then you can ask, then it's a resolution, so you can get more of your answers at that time.
Okay, so in all fairness then, Alan, we need to have a discussion item for every single donation?
No.
Okay, so can we find out how much we have left in the donation pot? And
yes.
then anyone that wants to put forward a resolution for the next meeting can do so, and then we can make that decision.
Yes.
Are we okay with that?
Yes.
They would be individual resolutions.
Yes, individual
by
resolutions,
each of you.
and it could just be one.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
If
Correct.
there's
And can
one,
we add that we need to put a document together? Well, we need to discuss how we're going to create a guideline for donations.
Well, I think that you went to the restroom, so I don't think that we need to discuss. I think the staff can create it, and then,
Okay.
Are you supportive of that, Commissioner Vizcarra?
Yes, and I
Okay.
thought that direction had been given, but
Okay.
for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, for the next fiscal year.
Okay, I might have
Which
missed
we're
that,
right
yeah.
on the, you missed it.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I just have one other statement. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No,
But we
don't
were
apologize.
talking about last night regarding city services for residents that live outside of the city, that we were going to look to charge an additional fee for non-residents.
Mhm.
So in that regard, if we're giving a donation to an organization that has members outside of the city, just logically thinking, doesn't it lend to that as well? To think, are we funding non-residents with a donation?
Well, I think that that's part of the process that the staff is going to come up with, because they've all heard us say the same thing.
And I'm for funding, I just
No,
want
no,
to make
no,
it clear,
and,
I'm for funding social citizens.
I think that we need to look at it individually, so I don't disagree with you. I just think that at this point, it doesn't really matter, because we're just going to discuss it next month
Right.
anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we good? We have the direction? Okay, 12F.
It just, where are we with the freebie ride service? I know it was in our budget last year, and we budget money for it. I just was wondering, where are we this year? And I've been approached by several residents that they would like to see it right now being active, this service. So I don't know what is stopping, so I just wanted to have some clarification from the staff. Thank you.
Staff including Audra, is still researching all of the options. Freebie is coming in very expensive, and so she's looking at Circuit, a new system named Circuit that other cities have been very successful in actually saving money on. Right now, if we did Freebie, it would cost us more money than what is currently in our budget to add that feature. So we're looking at Circuit, and we're looking at a voucher program through Uber and Lyft, which is much more flexible in the way that you can use it. Less wait times because there's multiple Ubers all around. They're just not, branded as Sunny Isles Beach. But the service would be better because you could get it more quickly.
And it won't be only Sundays, right? Because I heard that right now we are considering only Sundays, but I do believe we had the need other days of the week. I had this conversation with several of our seniors that they go to the bingo or other activities in Gateway, and they would like to have other options other than the shuttle. So I know, or I believe I heard from their transportation
The transit study.
Program study that it was going to be only Sundays originally. So I don't believe it's going to be that successful. It's only Sundays. So I would rather if we can consider having it more days a week other than just Sundays.
So doing it on Sunday is the only day that they, based on our ridership, would find it to be cost beneficial, because right now we're running a large shuttle bus with very few riders, but only on Sunday. So the amount of ridership between Monday and Saturday is still kind of questionable, but for sure Monday through Friday justified having the shuttle bus over the freebie or some
and I
on-demand
think that's the
service.
issue that we have with the studies, that the people that need the service did not participate because they are not in the shuttle right now. So I don't think it is a real representation of what our people does need, because the study, it is as good as the people who participate and answer the questions. But if you are not if you didn't participate in the survey, then your need is not reflected there. And like I said, from the people that I've been talking and the ones that approach me, they are feeling the need of that service.
And so maybe Uber Lyft through vouchers is a better trial program, and that way we don't have to invest the amount of money we need for freebie or maybe even Circuit, if we can use the voucher program just to gauge and see what kind of activity it would
You
get.
a digital voucher, you get it right there, and you
Correct.
activate it.
Right.
The app, yeah.
Mhm. And that way we control its resident
I know
only.
Freebie sent a last proposal, so if we could share that with all of us, and so we can see actual numbers and what is that they were proposing, because I spoke to them a few days ago, and to have the service, I believe it was from Wednesdays to Sundays for 7 hours every single day, it came to $160,000 or $70,000 a year. And to have it only Sundays, it was like 130. So it was 12 hours, yes, on Sunday. So I think like once we see the numbers and we see the hours, and talking about the level of service to our people, I think that is something that we could provide.
From talking to the people, the 7 hour, what is that time range?
I don't have it, but I will share whatever they gave me with you
Okay.
guys so we can share it and we can all
Okay.
have it.
No, I meant that the residents wanted. Do you know what the residents wanted?
Yeah, in the afternoons. They went in like after 2, 3 p.m.s, like to go into the programs and activities and all of that
Okay.
until I think like 9, after 9.
Well,
Yeah.
Gateway closes at 4.
Just-
I don't know where they're going.
Okay. You wanted to add something?
I would just like to say that what Commissioner Viscara just said is quite disheartening. Commissioner Stuyvesant said is quite disheartening, because regarding the surveys and the studies, if you're not going to take those at face value, then when we have our park survey come through, you're also going to be dissatisfied, and we're never going to get to a decision on anything.
Noted. Okay, so next item?
Mayor, considering the time, I am inclined to ask for this item to be deferred unless you all want to discuss it right now.
I will agree for you to defer it if you provide a longer memo for the next time.
I will.
If you agree to provide more.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, that's another thing that I was thinking of, providing some additional information.
Okay.
Some
All right.
background history.
We have citizens forum next.
And we have no public comments for that.
No speakers? No? Last chance?
No speakers?
Okay.
That's it? Adjournment?
Motion to adjourn?
No? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.